so they can
They,
determine all that.
they're the board, they're independent of us. I mean,
They have like a
All right, it's 5 o'clock. Thanks everybody for being here. This is a work session for our council meeting next week. We'll have a proclamation for the Alton High School cheerleaders, their second consecutive state title, and then 2 presentations, one by Caroline Swope with the Historic Preservation Report, and Carl Pruitt on the transportation update. All right, approval of monthly bills, approved December 2023 monthly bills. Any discussion or questions? And then approval of minutes. Any questions on those? Next are weed abatements. David, here. Kind of are what's. All right, any questions? All right, resolutions. Resolution 24005, approve the contract with Lightwire Solutions for managed IT services for Parks and Recreation and Point Mallard. And
Jason will be prepared to, he is not here tonight, he'll be prepared to speak on that next week.
okay,
Wait a minute, we're about to increase our budget by, what, is it almost $5,000 a month, $4,800 and some dollars a month? Will anybody here speak on that?
it's actually about, if my math is right, I think total is like 70,000. There's those fees.
A year, but.
But then you've got a
The number went
reduction in
down
headcount.
from the last week to this week, right? For monthly.
The one-time fee and all that. That's
Okay,
Yeah.
it's like $70,000 a year and we don't have anybody here to.
He had a health concern, didn't allow him to come
I
to speak on
understand, I
that.
understand.
So there's gonna be a reduction in headcount,
Yes, sir,
1 position to,
1.
We are increasing our budget though. Again, we're looking at headcount, reducing our headcount, but we're increasing our budget.
yeah.
And we are, I guess, you know, we have unlimited, I don't want to say it's unlimited, well, it is unlimited because based on the number of hours worked, if they come in, it's $250 an hour, correct? With a minimum of an hour. And then if they come in on the weekend, it's a minimum of 2 hours at $250 per hour. Then if they come in on a holiday, it's a minimum of 4 hours at $250 an hour. So this is a pretty significant, and the only thing is that now we already have somebody in the department doing what they're asking us to contract with this company for. So we've hired a person full-time to do this, and now we're going out to a company and we're increasing our budget, and we don't have anybody here to explain that.
That's right.
That lacks transparency.
No, sir, he'll be here next Monday to speak on it.
He'll be here next Monday, but
And you,
let's be
I
clear about this.
think he'll be more than happy to reach out to you.
Well, but it's not for me. It's not for me. When we set this up in 2004, we set this system up so that we didn't have a meeting a week ahead of time then. We set it up so that not only could the council be more abreast of what was going on, but the public could be more abreast of what was going on. And with the public finding out the day of the meeting, that lacks transparency. So if we're gonna do this, we probably need to hold off. I would suggest that we hold this off until the next meeting.
I think we can have that, I mean, we could vote to do that next week, to do what you're asking.
Yeah.
We could vote to do it next week, but again, we're going to go into the, I mean, why
That
not?
would actually give more transparency, because you'd have more time between, there would be an explanation and potentially a tabled vote to a future, more discussion would be, able to be had.
We can have a discussion there. I don't understand. First and foremost, I don't understand why we're doing it when we have a person here that's full-time doing that now. Secondly, and we had a part-time person doing it before. A person dedicating part of their time to it before. Now we have a person who's doing it full-time. And even though we're probably gonna lose that spot, we are still increasing our budget. Our public doesn't have a clear expectation of what this is about. And so anyway, if you guys wanna hold off and we vote to table that next week, we'll do it.
Okay. I think I agree with you, there's gotta be an explanation, and that would give multiple meetings to discuss it. So we can see what the explanation is.
All right.
All right, any other discussion? All right, resolution 24016, authorize the mayor to purchase 401 11th Avenue Southwest and 311 5th Avenue Northwest from state of Alabama.
Yeah, Alan Stover, Community Development Manager. These are two lots that we have been requested from resident to purchase these two lots. They are state-owned lots. The city is maintaining those. So we're just asking that we're allowed to purchase these. So then at the next meeting, I will have an ordinance on the following meeting to sell these lots at
All
that
right,
point.
any questions?
Thank
All
you.
right, resolution 24017, approval of annual Red Sage Master Service Agreement and Statement of Work.
Best of my knowledge, this is just a continuation of an agreement we've had for several years. It's budgeted, is what I've been advised. May or may have a different or additional information, but that's what I understand.
It looked like this was the budgeted.
Yes.
What was passed in the budget. All right, any questions? Resolution 24018, approved Department of Youth Services continued usage of city school facilities agreement.
I don't see Brandon. For several years, we've had an agreement with Decatur City Schools to use during the summer Austin Junior High Gym for their summer program. That's what this does. It continues that agreement.
All right, any questions? Ordinances first reading, ordinance 24457 for approved parade ordinance revision.
That just fulfills what was asked at the last meeting. There's two words that are coming out of the definition of parade.
We need to clarify that.
And we can when we come to speak, because we're not voting on it tonight.
That's fine, but I mean, if it's the first reading of it, I think that you should at least have.
It's not the first reading would be next week. But
It's wrong about that it's only about section 17-1. It's about 6 sections
Okay.
throughout this chapter.
let's get to it.
Well, yeah, but you may understand, what you presented to me was for that one second.
What I sent to you was the PDF of this right here, which is the entire chapter where all 6.
Well, I misunderstood. I truly misunderstood.
And I sent a PDF to each of you.
Yeah,
I
I
just
truly,
heard last week the 2 words.
yeah,
I think
Well,
was-
that was the gist of what needed to be, but after looking at it, you have to take into account assembly shows up more than once throughout the whole chapter. So
okay.
Yeah, I think Herman probably got on it the next day, because when I talked to him Thursday, he had already submitted it. So it may have been before you had sent that.
It was, but-
He had changed it.
Well, I just simply yeah, what you want me to do is look at the whole, okay,
Well,
I'm
I mean,
with you.
I've got it already.
I understand, but I only heard the 2 words being removed, and that's what I did, but if there's other things, that works fine too. I'd rather look at the whole thing.
Let me, before we go on, I have concern too, I don't know what, Elena's concerns are. But we have, a part of that original ordinance, Herman, it said procession of any kind. Does that include funeral processions?
It could, because, well, that's covered under,
Well, it says not governed by normal or usual traffic regulation or control.
I think
And
there's
so
a-
I understand.
It's
Don't get me
under
wrong.
exemptions, Billy.
it's an exemption for the
Well,
funeral.
I've changed those.
That's true, but now we changed the policy, not we, but the police department changed the policy about 4 years ago about there only being 15 cars allowed in the procession. So anybody who follows a procession, who is actually a part of the procession still, and they're still a procession, they would be in violation of the law? I guess that's my concern.
That's not the intent, no, I would not expect.
Okay, it might not be the intent, but that's what it says here.
Well,
So
okay, that,
I think that we need to address that as
I
well.
appreciate that, that's good.
Thank you.
I think there was a council, this was the previous council, but there was some work done
On the number of-
parade, or sorry, the
The-
funeral.
The number of vehicles that could ride in a procession.
That was not changed by the council, that was changed by the police department, and our mayor were in support of that. I was not in support of it, and it never came before the council.
Okay, I thought it.
I didn't change it, it was in my policy.
No, I met with you and Chief Allen about that, and you supported that at that time. You, Chief Allen, and it was Captain Jones. We met on the 6th floor. The three of us met, and you were in support of it. The four of us met, and you were in support of it at that time. So that's what I was referring to,
Okay.
okay?
All right, any other discussion there? Ordinance says ordinance 244573, approved request for Lisa Edwards Caregiving and Transportation located at 401 14th Street Southeast, Building 3A, Suite 3, Decatur, Alabama 35601, to operate a chauffeur service on the streets of Decatur. Okay, any questions? All right, we will move into, yeah, sorry, James. Yep, you told me that.
Council, Dane Shaw, Director of Development, want to add for next week, the rezoning of the Brian Cagle land that we run for annexed in a couple councils ago. It's the Ackerland property, it's zoned, going to be zoned Ag 1. The planning commission approved it on 12/19/23. There's 6.65 acres,
So it was approved on what day?
12/19/23.
Yeah, that's fine to add. All right, we will move into public comment. Sorry, Chief, come on. I didn't see you.
How are y'all doing tonight?
You?
Good. Tracy Thornton, Fire Department. Hey, I wanted to come up here tonight to address some issues that you brought up last week at the council meeting after I left.
Yeah,
I feel like there was a lot of things that were said that was not factual, was not true, and at the very least, it's not true.
Like?
I'll get into every one of those.
Let's do that.
And I'll be glad to talk with any of you about anything we do whenever you want to do this. But how this was brought last week at the council meeting where I didn't have time to prepare for it, didn't know what was going on. We talk to each other. You call me, you have my cell phone number. Every one of you have my cell phone number. You can call me anytime that you want to talk. The same way with anybody else. If you have questions or concerns, I'm available to talk to about these things. So I'm going to look at several different things here that was talked about the other night. So we said that we passed a resolution back in November of last year, allowing us to go to the 4896. That's not what the resolution was. The appointing authority and the department director make the scheduled hours for employees. What we brought to you was a change in the merit system because of how we calculate our sick time, our vacation time, and all that stuff. So, if you look at the resolution, it would break down, it was the November 20th council meeting. It even talks about how we went from a 27-day work period to a 24-day work period, which would make the paper keeping. The biggest thing was the paper keeping of how we do stuff. The sick leave and the vacation time, we work more hours than what a 40-hour employee works. we're at work more hours than a 40-hour employee. Our sick time was calculated on 6 hours that we earn per pay period. And then if we took off a whole shift, which is 24 hours, we got only deducted 16 hours of sick time. So what we wanted to do with that resolution is to take it to where it's hour for hour. We accrue more, 6 hours per pay period, but we use more. So it's an hour for an hour. This makes paper keeping a whole lot easier. Also with vacations, we earn vacations in 40-hour blocks. That's what the city gets. However long you've been here, you get so many weeks. So firefighters are at work more. If we take off 1 week of vacation and we got 40 hours of vacation, theoretically, we really have to come back in and work another 8 hours on our vacation week off just to make the time work out. It's always been done that way, the sick time and this, even before I ever come here. We just wanted to make an accounting, make it easier for it to be kept up with. It's what we brought to you. What we did bring, when we started this 4896, it wasn't the administration that done it, it was the people on the floor. This schedule is spreading across the United States. Lots of people are going to it. The guys on the floor brought it to us and asked us if we could do it. So that's why we did this. You said that this decision would make us unsafe and unstable doing this. With that being known, you hadn't even asked me anything about it up until November. And since November until last Tuesday night, you hadn't even talked to me about it. Tuesday night until tonight, you hadn't asked me anything.
But in the council meeting, I said that at that particular time. I said it in the
My
council
phone
meeting.
is always open.
Okay.
We was in,
The thing is, I said it in the council meeting that night. And when I got a copy of the SOP, and I started looking at the SOP and the things that were said here in this room that were not in the SOP, that was what I was addressing. Go ahead.
so we come here and a council work session started at 5. The work session was over at 5:07, and I sat here for another 53 minutes. I had no idea that this was even gonna be asked or said anything about. I mean, I'd appreciate just saying, hey, can you explain this? Can you give me some insight to this stuff? You also said that, that fire officers would be tired and not be able to give the citizens the care that they need. There are countless organizations across the country that are going to this type of work schedule. It's just not us, it's not Decatur, it's all across the United States. There is no way of keeping up with what work schedule any fire department or any place works, but there is a website that people can voluntarily go on and sign up and say that they're using this website, using this work schedule. Cities such as Peoria, Arizona, Flagstaff, Arizona, Sacramento, California, there's 24, 28 pages maybe of different departments that are doing this. Talks about what work schedule they was working, what they went to, how many calls they run. When we went into this, it wasn't just blind, just saying, hey, we're gonna do this. This has been a 1.5-year process of getting us to where we're at with this work schedule. Talks about the different calls in different places, Santa Barbara, California, Springs Hill, Tennessee, Brentwood, Tennessee. There's places all over the country that are going to this. And you can look and see what type of calls they run. A lot of them run a whole lot more than what we do. Last year, we were under 10,000 calls for the entire city that we ran. The Sacramento Fire Department, one of their engines run 5,000 calls alone, running this type of schedule. They didn't seem to have any problems. None of them seemed to have any problems on it. As far as 48s, we already do 48s now. We do mandatory overtime on 48s and we do voluntary overtime on 48s. The only difference is what we're going to, they'll have multiple days off in a row to rest in between coming back into work. Whereas now, if you work a 48 shift, you're off one 24-hour shift and then you're back at work another 24-hour shift. There's lots of studies.
Before we go any further, let's go back to what I said in the council meeting that night. I said that, yeah, you're right. We do have mandatory 48-hour shifts. We do have individuals who do work at 48. We don't have entire crews that work that up until this point. And so to have one person who's on the crew that's tired versus an entire crew that's tired, that's a different situation. You guys had a fire over here on 6th Avenue, what, last week before last?
Yes,
And there were, what, 5 firehouses there?
I think 4. And
One,
and
I
then
think
they
it
swapped
was
some
1, 2,
crews
3,
out.
4, and 5 was my understanding of that. And they were there from about 2 o'clock in the morning until 6, 7 o'clock the next morning. So they went after they went after their time to get off. So we had 3 stations covering our entire city, basically at that particular time. So fatigue would have been a factor for those guys. And going into another 24-hour shift, even the studies show that there needs to be time for them to be able to take a break. That's not provided with this 48-hour shift. So when I said that our citizens weren't necessarily going to get the care that, or their care would be challenged, that's exactly what I meant, because when you have those type of situations, which aren't every day, well, you have stations like Station 5 that runs how many calls a day? 10, 12 calls a day?
Maybe 10.
Okay, 10, 12. I've gotten that it's more than that, because when I suggested 10, it was like, oh no, we wouldn't more than that. But anyway, 10 calls a day, and then they do that 2 days. The amount of rest that they get is not optimal. So when a person's having a heart attack, stroke, critical situation day 1, and the guys are rested and they can deal with that first shift, day 2 they come back and they run the same shift. Those guys are the care that, even though we might want to give the same care, it's not going to be the same care. The guys are fatigued. The firefighters are fatigued. So that's my concern here. But go ahead.
So, there are lots of different people talking about this. PhD Susan Cohen actually did a study called the 24-48 versus 48-96 work schedule comparative analysis, where it talks about short-term fatigue, long-term fatigue, and about the scientific effects of what that is. This might be a good study for people to take a look at. It's not what my opinion is. It was somebody that done actual research.
But I think for every, I don't mean to cut you off, but for every negative study we get
And
about it,
every
you can get a positive on the other
You
side.
can get 10 positive.
That's exactly
studies
right.
for,
You can get it
every-
either way.
You're right.
So I brought in studies, I think Jacob had studies. We all had studies that related to this, and some of them were in favor of it, some were in opposition to it. You find
I'm
one or
just
two
saying,
that were
you
unbiased.
can find stuff that's bad about it, and you can find stuff that's good about it.
I agree.
And I also know this, like I told you before when we done this, there are lots of people out here that are doing this, that support this work schedule. They don't have a problem with it. It doesn't seem to be any increase. And then there are some people that have had increases in accidents or injuries or something along that lines. There's gonna be accidents and injuries with what we're doing. What I was saying a while ago, we already work 48-hour schedules. 48, we allow people to work 48 hours. We also allow people to work on their day before they come into work, which a lot of departments don't do that. So we've never had a problem for safety, worry about safety or concern with that issue, with people working another job before they come in to do this job. We've been doing this as long as I've been here, and it's never seemed to be an issue up until now when we're doing this. You said the fire chief said 70% of people wanted this. You're 100% right on what you said about it. It wasn't brought, I didn't bring it to them, they brought it to me. What we did to figure out what people want to do is we did 2 different studies. Anonymous, you could put your name on it, some people did because they wanted people to know what they said. But we asked them several different questions. So I actually have a copy of what those exact results are for that study. And it was 70% in favor in the department, 20% against, and 10% said it didn't matter. So you could look at it as saying as high as 80% of the people wanted it, or it could be as high as 30% didn't want it. But if we're getting 70 and 80% people that want to do something, I feel like it's a pretty good thing. I think it's something that we need to look at.
But let me stop you at that
we-
point. before you go on, because I know you're going to another point. My responsibility, and this council's responsibility overall, is not to look at what the fire department wants. It's our responsibility to look at what our citizens need, and that's what I'm taking into consideration.
What do you think my responsibility is?
Well, I understand what your responsibility is supposed to be, but let me say this. When 74%, you said 70% were in favor of it, when 74% of our citizens, of firefighters, excuse me, live outside of our city limits, then we have a fire force that is, who knows, I mean, it might have been 70%, or it might have been a very large, small percentage of that. But when those guys don't live in our city, I'm not gonna make decisions based on what our firefighters want or anybody else wants, especially if those guys don't live in our city. But I'm gonna always look at what our citizens are gonna need and want. And there's just no way that I can ever be convinced. Look at the studies. And I've looked at studies that are pro and studies that are con. And if they are, I'm not gonna do something that I think is gonna put our citizens at risk, and I still think that.
And I don't feel I'm gonna do something to put our citizens at risk either.
Okay. I think that,
You know, you wanna talk about safety, and, you know, safety's just not one aspect of it. You realize that we had applied for and we was given a safety grant, a SAFER grant. And the council in 2015 voted to let that SAFER grant go back, and we lost 9 firefighters. That's 3 firefighters per shift. That is one of the #1 safety issues for the citizens and the firefighters, is the number of people that we put on scene. There's lots of things that we can do to impact safety. We'll have to be careful with this and what we're doing. I think there's nobody that don't think that. I mean, it's an issue, and it's something that we have thought about before we went into this. But there's lots of issues that have to deal with safety and what we have to deal with on a daily basis.
but we don't have to accentuate those.
I don't know if it's accentuated.
Okay. I firmly believe
All
that
right.
we are.
So you said that we had 3 people that have left to go to Cortland. So you are correct, we did have 3. But you said all 3 of them left because of this 4896. 2 of them left because they lived there and they want to see something, they're excited about seeing something help be different in that community, where Cortland was a volunteer department and now they've gone to a partial paid department. One of them did say in a list of things of why he wanted to go to Cortland, that he said he wasn't interested in working at 4896. So 1 out of the 3 that you said actually said that.
That's not the understanding that I have, though. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, too. Go ahead.
2 have gone to Huntsville because of this. We did lose 2 firefighters going to Huntsville. One of them hasn't said anything about the 4896. One of them, the reason he is going to Huntsville is because of the 4896. So he couldn't work it. You said that we've had 11 apply to Huntsville since we enacted this. That you got that information from personnel that day. I talked to personnel and they said that they hadn't given out any information about that. And also the number of 11.
You talked to everybody in personnel?
I
Okay, let's go ahead.
didn't realize I had to go through each person in personnel, but I did call personnel and ask them about that. So you said 11 have applied to go to Huntsville since we did this. Well, the actual number was 18 people that we had applied to go to Huntsville. But it wasn't because of the 4896. We had 18 people apply to go to Huntsville when all the other departments around us were getting raises, and Huntsville was paying thousands and thousands of dollars more than what we were. That's why we had 18 people apply at Huntsville.
Well,
We wouldn't even go into the 4896 when that happened.
My understanding, though, is that we've got 11 who applied since you went to that. So go ahead.
Not according to the information that I got.
Okay. And we got different information.
Yes, sir. I do think this was a little odd that during our talks about the money and the pay increase, we weren't allowed to talk about Huntsville. But yet, now we're talking about people that were leaving to go to Huntsville. I stood up when the podium was right over in that corner, and I addressed the council and I addressed the personnel board. And I asked y'all, how am I supposed to compete with people like Huntsville, Coleman, Hartsville, all these different places that paid more money, we're gonna lose firemen. And now, we did lose firemen. We had people sign up to go to other places. There was articles from the Decatur Daily, and actually articles picked up from national magazines that ran, me getting up and saying that we was gonna lose people because of the money that we was making. It wasn't even an issue of 4896 at that point. You said in January we have 4 retirees that we're gonna lose because of this schedule, best of your knowledge. I also stood up at that very podium and brought out different charts about people leaving, how many people we had retired, how many of those people were gonna be paramedics. I've asked for overhires from back in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, because of the number of people that we had retired. 4896 wasn't even an issue back then. We've known that these people were gonna retire because they had their 25 years in and they said they were gonna retire. 4896, I'm pretty sure you're right about they didn't wanna work it, but that's not why they retired. They retired because their time.
So they were previously scheduled to, before 4896, they were previously scheduled to retire in January?
They didn't schedule it to retire in January, but they've been talking about retiring when their day come up.
So they didn't schedule it, but now that we've done 4896, they did schedule it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if you say it like that, it makes it sound like it's because of 4896. It's because they got 25 years of work in and they could retire.
But they had 25 years of work in, but now they've scheduled it for January since we implemented this.
Because their retirement date was in
Okay.
January.
It was already.
I mean, it's pretty simple.
Go ahead. You're right. It's very simple.
I can't retire until January 28th, February 1st, just the same as that whole class of people that I brought you the information on. It wouldn't have done me any good to try to schedule it in October, November, December, because it wasn't there for me to retire. Just so we got all the cards on the table about this, we had 2 more people that did leave. And out of those 2, one of them went to what we would consider a better paying job, but he did say he didn't want to work 4896. And we had another gentleman that left because he said he couldn't work 4896. Just being
Okay.
factful and honest with you as best I
I
possibly can.
appreciate that.
So, moving on to the next item, you brought up that it was 20 to 40,000 pound vehicles, but they were much heavier. I don't know where that comes from. I've never talked or any. I had to look up to see what the gross vehicle weight of a fire truck is. All I know is a fire truck does weigh more than a car. You're right. I'm not trying to disagree with that. But we do have one truck, it does weigh more than that, 20 to 40,000 pounds that most of those vehicles weigh, and that's Tower 4, and it can weigh up. According to the Federal Highway Administration, any vehicle has to weigh under 86,000 pounds, and that truck does weigh under it. But
It's
it
just
does
like
weigh
you
a
said,
lot.
I got the information when I spoke the night of council meeting. I got that from the internet as a general number.
Yeah. I don't know where the vehicle weight come
As a general
into
number.
the whole
And then
plate.
I got calls since then that said that they were heavier than that, but go ahead.
So, you also said that 10% of our firefighters have left because, we have lost 10% of our firefighters because of the schedule.
Based on that 2, 3, and 11.
Yeah, but
yes.
those numbers were not correct.
That's what you say. I mean, but again.
Well, I mean, it ain't what I say, it's the truth. Those numbers are not correct. I mean, just because somebody gives you some information and you come up here and present it to everybody, does not mean that that's the correct information. I
But
mean,
just
you can say
because,
what you
just
want
because
to.
somebody won't tell you that it is because of that, doesn't make it true either.
I mean, we could debate this all day long.
We could, I'm ready to,
I guess I can too.
so. But
Next thing on here, you said the citizens is gonna cause a problem for the citizens. I don't think, I agree. I agree with you. I hate, I'm even having to come up here and talk about this in front of everybody tonight. You said the citizens are gonna have a problem, it's gonna be for them. I don't think the citizens care what schedule we work, as long as we have somebody that shows up, that are trained, that they're professional, and they help them in their time of need when they need it. That's what they expect out of us.
when I said
That's
that the
what we've always
citizen,
done.
yeah, but when I said
and
the
that's what we
citizen,
will continue
when I
to
said
do.
the citizen's gonna have a problem with it, I didn't mean that they were gonna have an opinion on this and have a problem with it. what I meant was the problem was gonna be because of the lack of care and the decline in care. And I firmly believe that that's gonna be the situation, that I can do a Sudoku puzzle, and I can get tired at night and I can't do it. And I can wake up the next morning and obviously, I mean, as soon as I look at it, I can see 2 or 3 moves that I can make. It's because I'm fresh, and I'm clear, and I've gotten a good night's rest. And that's just a Sudoku puzzle. That's not somebody having a stroke or a car accident where somebody gets hurt real bad and somebody's faculties have to all be there and they have to understand exactly what they're doing and they can't make mistakes. So that's my concern, and I think that is my concern for our citizens.
And we addressed that with personnel. We actually had 3 different meetings that personnel could come to and talk about that. We talked about the importance of them utilizing the time when they're at the station when it is downtime. They're not working 24 hours a day when they're there at the station. They have opportunities throughout the day to rest and have downtime when they're not doing anything. We've also talked about the importance of going to bed earlier instead of staying up to midnight and then might have a call and be up for the rest of the shift.
Yes.
Something, I mean, I don't know what was.
No, I'm laughing because, I mean, you're talking as if we're talking about Station 8 on these calls. That doesn't get very many calls, but a Station 5 gets calls all the
So how
time.
many calls
So
do they
you
have?
can't dictate when they go to bed if they're getting calls constantly.
So
I mean, that's the
I think
thing.
I just said that. They have downtime after station. What I was saying is if they have downtime, they need to utilize it whenever they have.
Okay, if they have downtime, go ahead.
They do have downtime.
Okay, go ahead.
You said it would be a problem for us to maintain firefighters. Before we announced this 4896 and the stuff that we did with the pay, we had 0 lateral applications, 0. Since then, we interviewed 9 people and have put out job offers to 8 of those 9. Before that, we didn't have hardly any open hire process. And since then, we've gotten more open hire process and even got a recruit school on the books for September and got HR working to get the process going on the open hires. All 9 of them were explained to that we're going to 4896, and they all said that was a positive reason that they were wanting the company.
And it might, and you're right, we might not have all the factual information, but part of the information that I got on many of the people that we were interviewing were that many of those people, and we're not talking good name and character because we're not mentioning anybody, but my understanding is that many of those firefighters that you interviewed and that we're looking at were fired from other departments. Might not be true, but that was the information that I got. So are we taking rejects from
So,
other
you know what
departments?
I wish is when you get this information, you would tell them to come talk to the department head, or Kyle's the fire council, city appointed fire department liaison, to try to figure out what this stuff is true and what's not.
Yeah.
Because it seems to be a lot of miscommunication, a lot of confusing information between the two of us.
That's one thing we agree on.
So you said the SOG, it's not a holiday. I don't think anybody wants me to read through that SOG and talk about it. But originally, when we come out with this, we said that people had thought day 2 of the tour was going to be an easier, not doing as much as what the first day is. And that's not what day 2 is. It's not a holiday. Holidays, we try not to do any PR events, go out and do extra stuff. It's not a holiday the second day. And that's what we're trying to convey to the department. It's not a holiday. We still have a job. We still have to do what we have to do.
I understand that, but when we emphasize that, we got a second day, I know you're gonna be tired, this is not, that kind of, I think that says it all. But two, when the administrative officers came here and they said that when our crews are tired and they're overworked, that administrative officers would go and backfill for those crews. That's exactly what was said in this meeting. You can do that. But if that's standard operating procedure, it's not in the SOP.
So
It's not in here anywhere.
when we have those 7 engines on an apartment fire, and we call people in, and we move people around, and we have administrative people come in and do work during those, we've always done that throughout the career of the fire department. We don't have to put it in the SOG. That's just what happens. I don't have to tell the battalion chief, if you got somebody that's been up on a scene for 6 hours straight, swap that crew out for a crew that's been over here, hadn't been doing it. So this is what happens when we work.
But if that's our standard practice, it should be in here. And I'll tell you this too. If, if that's our standard practice, it should be in our SOP. Whether it's understood or not. And when we have to have assessments done by all of our firefighters, and our administrative staff can take those assessments or not take those assessments, we don't know really if they're capable of doing the job unless they can meet those assessments. So again, for them to go out and to say that we're gonna backfill, you know, that doesn't make me feel any safer about it either.
So, next thing on my list,
Go ahead.
you said that it was held to a different standard, that you don't know if they can do those assessments.
Yeah.
Everybody did those assessments.
It's not required for our administrative officers.
But before they can go out and work at a station during operations, they have to pass that assessment.
So they did it when the officers did, when the firefighters did it this past time?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I'll give you one.
well, thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
You ought to be giving me a whole lot more because I've been giving you some good information on this. You give me an example that I said that every station would have a paramedic at each station, and then that's not true. I never said that. I got newspaper articles, TV interviews that I printed off, the transcripts of, where, once again, I sat over there, I talked to the personnel board, and I've talked to you about the number of paramedics we have. I would love to have one at every station, and that's a good goal for us right now. I'd really like to have 2 at every station, but I ain't got the paramedics to do it. I kind of asked about what we could do to incentivize the paramedic program to get people in there. I did get an incentive for the paramedics, and we did see it in some of the people going to school for it. But it hasn't been enough to get people to do it. I actually sat over at that podium and said, if we don't do something to incentivize people to go to paramedic school, we're gonna lose the paramedic program, and I think that's one of the most important services the city of offers its citizens.
I agree.
So I don't know why, I don't know why you, I mean, like, we was here, I don't know why you would say I was saying we was going.
I didn't say, I said that it was said that we would have paramedics on every crew, and that was what was said to us. So,
Not just according to what I told you
Okay,
about the
okay.
news reports and stuff.
I don't know
So,
what the news reports are.
the last thing I'd like to say,
Go ahead.
it was different news channels too, involved with it. So the last one on here, you said that it won't affect, that we said that it wouldn't affect overtime. So on 2448, they work 10 shifts a month, which is 240 hours a month. On the 4896, they work 5 48 shifts a month, which is 240 hours. They work the same amount of hours each month. We're not increased the workload, we're not increased the amount of hours that they have to work. So overtime shouldn't be affected by that. What's gonna affect overtime is us having people there to fill those positions. If we're fully staffed, we should not have any additional overtime. So when we went and done this 4896, it gave us multiple other applicants that we didn't have at all. So if anything, it's helped us reduce our overtime.
If we lose this number of people that have applied to other departments, and it exceeds the number that we hire, we can't help but increase overtime. Overtime can't help but be increased.
I don't think we're losing anymore because the ones that's already been lost have been lost.
Yeah, they're gone. They're
So
gone.
there's not like there's not more leaving because of it.
That's not my understanding.
Okay.
My understanding is that they are leaving because of that, and if we lose more officers than we can replace them, then it can't help but increase overtime. That's just logical.
that makes 100%, I agree with you. If we lose more people for any reason,
That's
we
exactly
can't
right.
do it.
And that's what I'm showing.
But I'm showing you that we are having people apply here that wouldn't apply beforehand.
And my concern is that I don't know if those people who are applying are candidates that other departments are going to want.
Well, thank y'all for letting me come and clarify this stuff. I apologize, this shouldn't have been done like this tonight. We should have had this discussion before we come up
Yeah,
here.
but
And
here's
then we could have made
But here's the deal,
out
it
to
was
let people know
being,
what
it
we
was
need
being
to know.
implemented, and I wanted you to be here, but it was being implemented today. And that was the last meeting we had before today. I got a copy of the SOP shortly before then, so that's where we were. So,
So you
and
had to
and
get a
again,
copy
I
of
was
the
not
SOP.
necessarily addressing you, I was trying to address the council because I really felt like this council should not have let it go on and without further study.
Well, I'll be honest with you. It seemed like the words that you said and the way you said them, you was questioning my honesty and integrity with what I brought to you. Because you said the facts that we brought to you wasn't right, and that you needed those correct and factual statements to make decisions. I give you the correct and factual information as I possibly can.
Well,
And I don't think I've ever done anything but give you that.
And that's what I'm starting to wonder, because I don't know that this is, the information that we have now is the best information that we could possibly get. So I'm not backing off of that statement. I mean, that's exactly what I said, and that's what I meant. So, but I'm not backing off.
I really, I said something.
All right, good deal.
Thanks,
But,
Chief.
Jay, please,
Thanks, Chief.
Can we give them some time?
No. All right, we'll move into our public comment. Do 3 minutes. Come to the podium. I think I don't know what I heard.
Your face just went like heck no.
I heard that song, said I got 5.
All right, so we'll start that now. We want to keep it professional and things that we can, that are beneficial to everybody. So threats and certain things like that are not going to be tolerated. So we'll start with that. Blake Stewart's first.
Good evening. I want to let y'all know you missed out on the best formal event that I've ever been to in Decatur on Saturday night. I was hoping to see some of y'all there. All right, I'm going to start talking about Officer McAdam. Not the Officer McAdam that was fired or suspended, but the Officer McAdam that is still on duty. So I've talked about it twice. So I have personally witnessed a supervisor state there's no conflict of interest with Officer McAdam being on scene dealing with night shift. In the last meeting, the mayor said the chain of command at the police department would do something about it if there was a conflict of interest. I don't believe that anything has been done. Chief Pinion didn't indicate that he was going to do anything, but I just wanted to bring this to the attention. General Order 107, Section A, Subsection 6 of the Decatur Police Department Written Directive Manual states, and I quote, "Unless exigent circumstances exist, officers shall not engage in a law enforcement matter when it involves a family member, friend, or relative such that the officer's objectivity may be or may appear to be compromised." Now, we talked earlier about if that was intent. I think Herman said something about intent, and that may not be the intent of that. It may be like if Billy's my cousin and I'm an officer on duty, I shouldn't do anything, but the way it's written, don't you think that if an officer has a brother who the people who he is dealing with as a police officer are protesting for him to be arrested for murder and fired from his job, how can he have objectivity there? I would like for somebody to take that as an action item to do something about that. Please and thank you. Okay, so speaking of enforcement.
We continue.
Speaking of enforcement, this is for you, Mr. Mayor. You seem to want to enforce police ordinances to their fullest extent unless they apply to ordinances with which you don't agree. Did you ever receive a ticket or were you arrested for illegally operating a short-term rental property?
No, sir.
Okay. You admitted to the media you didn't have or pay for a business license. Did you happen to pay the city lodging taxes while you illegally operated an Airbnb?
No, sir.
Okay,
There's not a
How about-
means for doing so.
there's not what?
A means for doing so.
Okay, so we just steal from the city?
No, sir.
That's what it sounds like. How about state taxes?
Continue on.
I am, state taxes?
I'll answer your questions.
Federal taxes?
Should choose to.
Okay, not answering. Okay, Section 362514 of the Alabama Code of Ethics states, and I quote, "All elected public officials at the state, county, and municipal level of government must file a statement of economic interest form no later than 30 April each year with the Alabama Ethics Commission. Listed on that form will be a total combined household income broken down into categories. Have you included your Airbnb profits on
I
that?"
can't say that. Our treasurer does that. I don't know.
Like that, we just hit 3 minutes. What's your name?
Okay. So if the answer is no, and you
I didn't say no.
didn't say no?
No.
You said you didn't know your own form that is filled out?
Treasurer does though.
Why is the treasurer doing your personal forms, your personal income?
That's part of the campaign.
Do you provide any outside income sources to the treasurer to do that? I have to fill out an OG Form 450 for the government
sit here
reporting all of
today
my.
with
Okay. All right, so if the answer is no, you have not only lied on a state ethics form required to maintain your office, but you have also stolen money from the citizens of Decatur. Can we agree on that? It looks like enforcement of city ordinances for you, Mr. Mayor, is based on whether or not you benefit or profit from them. Correct? Okay. I urge everyone here to file a notarized complaint with the Ethics Commission. They will complete an investigation, and if the mayor has completed everything properly, or the treasurer in this case, no harm, no foul. It will be up to the mayor to provide them information that he is clearly unwilling to provide here. Any time that I have left, I would like to give to Elena. Oh, and Justin wanted me to say if the mayor didn't dismiss all the department heads before the public comments, that Billy would have been able to talk to the fire chief last week. I support the Perkins family. I support night shift. I support justice for Steve Perkins. And please help Justin get his house fixed. Thank you.
Let's just go ahead and pass these out so that there's no confusion. You're gonna get the original parade ordinance and then the amended parade ordinance, the entire chapter, 17, that needs to be amended. Here you go.
Thank you.
All right. So we're gonna go through each of the sections that are gonna get amended. It's not just section 17-1, because that would be silly, because it's not the only section that says assembly. But also in 17-1, we're going to take out assembly, demonstration, ceremony, show, exhibition, pageant, and we're also going to take out the phrase or any similar display, because that doesn't make sense. A parade is point A to point B, and it already states any promenade, so that would be any kind of, or procession. So that would be anything that's already moving. That's just what a parade is. That's it. So it shouldn't be having all of these things. So under section 17-2, exemptions, I decided to add in that this chapter shall not apply to, and if you go through, you see funeral processions, you see students going to and from school classes or participating in educational activities, and at the very end here, you see or peaceful assembly, provided such conduct is appropriate, which I think we should all be able to agree on. And then, turn the page, and section 17-4, interference. No person, now in this one, in the original, it says parade assembly. That's where assembly comes up again. I changed that to parade gathering. Makes more sense. No person shall interfere with the parade gathering where they're doing their stuff at. That makes sense. That should stay. And then if you go to section 17-23 on the next page, you will see the same thing. in numbers 8 and 9 that are highlighted, it had assembly, assemble, and assembly, and I added meeting, meet, and meeting for those things because that doesn't make sense to have assembly taken out in the beginning, but not through the rest of the chapter. And then on top of that, section 17-25, number 4, you're going to see where it needs to you need to take out assembly points, and I put in meeting points and meeting areas. So that is the entire thing, the way it needs to be amended, not just one section. And you know, if you had legal counsel that was able to look at that entire thing, because I sent it to all of you on PDFs, I did this entire thing. In my free time and, you know, part-time job and everything. But, if you had legal that, you know, looked through this whole chapter, I wouldn't have had to make sure that this was clarified because it's not just taking out 2 words. This amendment, this parade ordinance hasn't been messed with for a very long time. It's very outdated. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be taken out and needs to be looked at, and it's the entire chapter itself. I hate how you ignore everything until public comment. Like, we have not done police ordinances, we haven't done anything to actually talk about what's going on in our city. And also, I have a question for all of you, if you don't mind answering. What do you think about the DA and his decision? And how fast that came back? Go ahead and read the next name.
Read the next one.
Yeah.
Kathy Jackson. That's,
She had my extra time too.
sorry, who's Kathy Jackson?
Kathy.
Okay.
is back here. So, and how fast that came back. Anybody's got any kind of response that they'd like to share to their community about that?
I was impressed that he convened a grand jury that quick. Thought he did a great job with his press conference. Informing the public, I think he was very transparent in that.
Anybody else?
I would agree. I've known Scott a long time. Have nothing but utmost respect for him, and know he's a good person, and I expected he would do what he thought was right.
Anybody else? Yeah? You impressed with how fast and how transparent he was? Yeah? Yeah, we are too. And we realize that we have been played with. The city of Decatur has absolutely played with its citizens when it's come to this. You ignore.
He didn't have to wait for the Aaliyah report to get the information.
Yeah, but you guys didn't. And you didn't even have to send it to Aaliyah, so. Come on. I mean,
would you have rather, you're talking about the internal investigation or the criminal investigation?
both were
Okay.
botched, because the
So
internal
do
didn't
you-
start for
would
2
you
weeks
have
later,
rather the
and
police
the
department
criminal didn't
investigated-
have to go through Aaliyah.
Okay, to that point, that's what I'm addressing. Would you have rather the police department investigated themselves or had Aaliyah, a third party, investigate on them separately?
Now, let me ask you this question. Would you rather your police chief put out a correct statement
Yeah,
48
correct.
hours later, or would you rather him put out a statement the next morning that's false?
Well, could you answer the question?
I mean, it's hard to answer that question when the facts weren't ever known to begin with. It's hard to answer that question.
That language is not going to be
I'm
tolerated.
glad the third party came in, yes, but do I think they should have? No, if our police chief was good enough, he didn't need it. It's in his policies and procedure. Anyways, let me just get back to this. You ignore this entire situation until public comment. 2 people died due to police. Both of the people were black, and every single officer, including the lieutenant who was on staff both nights, Lieutenant Lindley, were white. Can we stop ignoring the situation? Can we? Stop deflecting to legal counsel, because I'm going to guarantee you something. If I could do this as a full-time mom, full-time college student, in my free time as a part-time job, maybe legal doesn't know what he's doing. Maybe he has no idea how to do this.
We're not gonna talk negative about city employees. You can
Okay.
talk negative about.
But it's my job to show you everything. It's my job to do this. It's my job to change your ordinance, because your legal has only changed 1 section when there's 6 that need to be changed. You all know what we want answers on, which includes a city memorial, or the memorial being vandalized 10 feet from your police department. That doesn't concern you? I've said that already once. We want answers on that. Who did that? Why is that not #1 priority? Why are you not all trying to get answers from your police department because of that? You know why we're here. Get answers. Do your jobs. Stop worrying about weeds and trees and the parking garage.
Crystal.
Stop worrying about the parking garage and the weeds and the trees and the hotel and everything that you got going on in downtown Decatur that's going to bring you in money. I know you're going to need that money when all these lawsuits come in and the lawsuits continue to come in. But when are we going to stop the prevention of lawsuits? When are we going to do that? When are we going to stop attacking protesters? When are we going to stop deflecting every single answer to legal? And let's just, I know it's part-time, but this should be number one priority for you. This should be it for you. Changing these ordinances, talking about the police policies and procedures, talking about the elephant in the room. The chief of police has to go. I'm so sorry. It's nothing personal. He put out a false statement against Steve. To me, that's kind of personal. And it should be personal to every single one of you because Steve was your citizen. And it should be personal. He obviously does not have the integrity that it takes to hold these officers accountable either. But the DA does. The DA showed us what it means to not be played with. So now we know. And now we understand that you guys really just never cared and you don't care now. But you're about to start.
That's right.
James, Vito.
Once again, what my good friend alluded to, there was an awesome gala that we had in honor of Steve Perkins' 40th birthday. Because the fact of the matter is, he shouldn't have been in Decatur. He should have been in Jamaica with his wife. That's what should have happened. But we were here in Decatur. And also, when we were here, we had a couple guests out of town, those who are fighting with us for justice for this man, to which they were pulled over for a traffic signal actually past the distance, not within a certain distance where you would be pulled over, but they knew that they were in town. That was a targeted attempt, and I personally believe, I don't have evidence, but I personally believe that they were hiding behind a bowling alley, waiting, because we've been crying out. We haven't been sitting down. We haven't been lax. We've been telling you directly what we've been wanting, and I firmly believe that arrest of our friends who have been protesting with us is an intimidation tactic from the DPD trying to instigate unnecessary conflict and confrontation with the people. Because we're not giving up. We're not giving up. And I don't think you get that. Like, it's not gonna blow over. It's not gonna just skate by and then kumbaya, then we shucking and jiving back where we used to be. That ain't happening. This ain't that. This ain't that. And I need y'all to understand that. Decatur's not gonna be the same.
That's right.
It's not going to be the same. And we need to stop instigating, not we, but the DPD, the city needs to stop instigating war with its own people.
That's right. Come on now.
Like, you want a fight. You want the National Guard called. You want SWAT equipment in this city. You want to resemble Birmingham with Bull Connor and a white tank and a water hose. That's what you want. And all we want is justice for Steve. That's the first thing I notified. The second thing is, I'm seeing what's going on. And as a spiritual leader, you may not believe it, but I still believe God speaks. I still believe in modern day apostles and prophets. And I'm seeing what's going on. And this attack, what the Lord revealed to me was, you're trying to gentrify the West Side. By the tearing down of T.C. Allman and Kerry Matthews and Brookhaven and the Aquadome, it's taking away voter hubs for the people in that region, to take away their voice. So they can't speak for themselves, so you can acquire the property to do what you want to move these people out because it's too close to downtown. And another thing is because you want people who live in Huntsville, who can't afford to live in Huntsville, to live in Decatur so they can commute to Huntsville. But you know there is no apartments in Decatur that resemble like the ones in Huntsville or Madison. So you need new real estate. So what better real estate than dilapidated properties that you choose not to get grants to rebuild? You choose not to get grants to fund.
James, we hit 3 minutes.
Do I have another?
Mike.
You choose not to get grants to rebuild. You choose not to get grants to re-renovate. And I used to work for the state myself in my county, and there were grants that passed over my desk, $500,000, $200,000 for the city just for roads alone. So, and in my city alone, and where my church is located, my mayor got a $12 million grant to redo a whole road in Hillsborough. So if a mayor of Hillsborough can get a $250,000 for a road, you tell me you can't get that much for Kerry Matthews and T.C. Ullman? So it's a ploy to gentrify, to remove the working class, to remove the people that you desire undesirables because they're not becoming the workers that you need to fix Huntsville. You want the tradesmen and want the people to come here so we can fix their stuff. That's the ploy. And I'm here to declare that you will not gentrify us. You're not going to push us away. We are not going to be the dirt that you brush under the rug. We are loud and we are proud and we will declare, whose streets?
Our streets.
Whose streets?
Our streets.
Whose streets?
Our streets. Black and proud.
Third point, we have to address the nepotism in the good old boy system in the mayor's seat. We have to address the fact that Tab Bolden is grooming Kent Lawrence as the next mayor of the city of Decatur. And because it's a ploy to keep things the way they are. Kent Lawrence has been handpicked by his buddy Tab to run this city. And this city does not need a Tab 2.0. Kent Lawrence sits on the planning commission and has not attended one city council to publicly speak out about what is happening in this city. Yet, he has no problem with trying to lobby the black pastors for a vote. Tab Bolden and these things that he can be put, he's trying to put people in positions for nepotism. Not by the people, but by choice. Not by people, but by choice. Removing T.C. Ullman, that's all part of the process. Not by the people, but by your choice. We are tired of this good old boy system, this buddy system. We need people who can do the job, not who you know, not what you know or who knows you, but who can do the job right. Qualified. Who is qualified to do the job. If this council does not want more of the same, the first step they need to take and to prove to this city and to prove to America that they're not in cahoots with the power that be is to begin the process of removing Chief Pinion.
That's right.
We cannot have it the same way, Tab. It's over. Give it up.
I just want to respond to something real quick. So I know that you said you said your county. What county do you live in?
Lawrence County.
Okay, so just a respectful, as nice as I can say this, if you have an opinion on it, you're more than welcome to move to the city of Decatur and cast a vote here. Mm-hmm. So I think that everything you have to say is nice and all that, but you're commenting on individuals who work for the city of Decatur and live in the city of Decatur when you do not live here.
But I'm commenting on a man who was born in Hillsborough, Alabama, named Steve Perkins.
And I understand that.
He went to East Lawrence High School, the same high school I went to.
I understand that. I do understand that. But if you're going to comment on that situation, comment on that situation.
I can comment on anything. I can call.
I can call
a wrong and a right a right.
Hold on, let me finish here.
The adults are talking.
You're dragging out other people that are. It's unnecessary at this moment in time. Speak on the subject that you would like to speak on that's relevant to the situation at hand. So you can be from Decatur all you want, but move back to Decatur and feel free to
open comment.
I'm trying to let James finish, but
that's all I have, Mr. James.
We did 3 minutes.
Once again, whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets.
Steve
Burgess. We know you was budget start out first. Yeah, we know
Pastor.
back and forth. We know we done.
Good evening. I want to not just talk about the situation at hand. We can't bring Steve back. But one thing we can assure, and it disturbed me last week when I heard, this ain't our job to provide justice over here, but it's across the street. I totally disagree.
That's right.
Because whether we can prevent the time, we don't have a time machine. We can't go backwards. But what we can do is find solutions to the problem that is at hand. My thing is, if two parties come to a table and they agree on something, and one party does one thing, but the other party doesn't do anything, how can there ever be solutions?
Right.
It was wavered that we move the memorial to one side. Granted. But at the same time, I keep on screaming we need a comprehensive review of the police department. Because apparently we need proof to show that the incompetency of our chief is there. And I told the mayor, and I agree, that, listen, you cannot have too much information. And my thing is, I'm coming around to this point here, is when can y'all, instead of discussing what lights to put inside of Point Mallard, when can we discuss how or who we're gonna have for the comprehensive board that I feel that needs to be transparent, because a lot of things have been done in the dark.
That's right.
And so in other words, it's just like a marriage. Now, I like this example, the Lord gave me this one. It's just like us being married and you cheated on me. And you expect everything to go back the same, but yet you still got the girl's number in your phone. So what I'm saying is, with this comprehensive review, I believe that we should have 2 or 3 options by next week.
I think we should have 2 weeks ago or a month ago.
Facts. There you go.
Thank you. And, not only that, Mr. Mayor, I think this will help in all of this, get folks off of you, if you told your progress in some of it. Not details, but saying, hey, we talked to 2 or 3 firms. This firm, I believe that would help a whole lot.
So we talked today with the firm.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it?
So are we getting close to y'all discussing it?
We need to, where the firm gave us information. The firm has non-disclosure agreements with their previous clients. And so the firm agreed to get with some of their clients and ask them to contact our folks so that we could get some recommendations from referrals on their work product.
Okay.
So that's what we're waiting for now.
Awesome. That's what I want to hear. So we shall hear some type of conclusion to where we start getting that worked on, because I believe that's going to start the healing process. That's one thing. And to pick up off of my brother, when it comes to the West Side gentrification, he brought that up. And that is a good point. What are we doing about voters? Because I know voters had to be at Carey Matthews and these other areas that we are tearing down. So what is the resolve on that? Are my people in Sunset still going to be able to vote in a place where they can walk to?
Yes, they vote in Sunset. That's not a big enough building. We need Carey Matthews back, but yes, they vote in Sunset.
Oh, it's not big enough. Okay.
No, that's the Boys and Girls Club. It's very small. And that's our biggest block in District 1, I think, is Carey Matthews.
And not just that, it's the development of the whole area over there, because I pastor in that area. I don't live there, but I pastor that area. I speak to people in that area. I minister to people in that area. And I want to see my west side grow. I want to see it blossom like the rest of Decatur. And there's one thing I do want to pinpoint on, in the midst of us fighting for justice for Steve, the saying resonated as I was heading away from my job: no justice, no peace. No peace. No justice, no peace. And even in that, I looked at that. How can you have peace and there's no justice? Amen. And the justice is when we start seeing these things that we just communicated. Because if we start seeing what we're seeing in our police department, I love our police department. Y'all doing awesome. But the thing is, what we start to see is something that reminds me of when Harriet Tubman was removing slaves from their homes, and the slave owners thought it was a problem. And thus, they had something called slave catchers. That just because you was black, whether you were a freeman or not, you was asked, not in a nice way, where's your papers? And my thing is, I don't want our police department to turn into slave catchers. But I want them to be what the car says, to serve and protect. That's all, I'm done.
Thanks,
I'm done.
Terrence Baker.
How y'all doing? Good, amazing actually. I just came up just to talk about the chief, just ask about where we are on that progress. The chief he's in a position that he shouldn't have been in the first place. He hasn't had the proper training. He hasn't had the proper year, well, probably maybe the proper years up under his belt, but as far as the classes and training that other chiefs have had, the years of experience in certain areas, he hasn't had that. We should all agree with that, or if not, we should just come to a common ground of that maybe he's just not the right guy for the job. McMasters, I don't know how you feel about the chief, but I'm going to propose this question tonight real quick. Would you advocate, and this is only if we could come together, find a nice interim chief, to community-based, someone that could get us on the right track. We don't want to just let this just lag around. We've gotten an indictment, a murder charge from someone in his department, just point blank, period. They were out of control. So I don't know, McMasters, how you feel about getting rid of Todd?
Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
I do not think Chief Pinion should be fired.
Okay.
And here's why. I know a lot of people may agree, and thank you for asking it that way. And we've had conversations, and I've had conversations with several others, and here's why. That night, Todd Pinion was at home in his bed. And I know people want to say heavy is the head that wears the crown, and he's the chief, and he needs to go regardless. Mm-hmm. I disagree with that, because through these last 12, 13 weeks, I've seen the man that he is. I've seen his character. I've seen his morals. I've seen his struggle.
What about leadership abilities?
His leadership abilities. It's been hard to it's been hard to see what I've seen because I've talked to him. Mm-hmm. Where Todd's made some hard calls, in my opinion. One thing he did, and I don't know, maybe Mr. Jackson could step in on this. I don't know if an internal investigation has ever started before a criminal investigation was finished with the leader. He did that, because he said it was the right thing to do. He's had to make some hard decisions.
As a leader, he should have took that. I feel like he should have took that charge up under him instead of sending it off so fast. I mean, as a leader, if I'm a journeyman on a job, you know what I mean, as an electrician, someone's house catch on fire and I'm at home, or if I own the company, right, and someone's house catch on fire and I'm not there, I'm at home in the bed, hey, I still didn't give them the proper training. They still didn't, and that just has to be, I know he might be your friend. I've spoke with him not a lot, you know, but his demeanor is of a nice guy. I understand that. I won't take that away from Todd. But as far as leading a city, like this is a whole city, like we have to do better. I wouldn't get in a chief spot and say, hey, I'm about to be a chief, because that's not my place.
Right.
You know, so we as the city officials, we should come together. Hey, look, you know, we should just come together and come up with something, because I just don't feel like
Hey,
it's
Terrence,
right.
can I jump in?
Mm-hmm. Please.
So I'm not going to say that I'm ready to call for the resignation of Chief Pinion, and I'm not saying that I won't ever get there. I have had some conversations with him. I have some concerns more so over the response to the incident than his involvement in the incident itself. I met with him weeks ago and laid out some of my expectations. And I hope that he's taken steps towards those as to what I think he should do to move forward. He doesn't have to. He don't have to do what I asked, but I would like to see him do those. And if I feel he doesn't, my tone would probably change.
Thank you. Billy?
I've had conversation with Chief Pinion, and I shared the same conversation with him that I've shared in this room, that I think there has to be accountability. I think that a nice person, as McMaster said, a nice person doesn't get it done. Yvette Rice is a very nice person. Doesn't mean she's capable of being a brain surgeon or police chief or anything else.
Correct.
Sorry to use you as an example. I just looked at it and saw a nice person. So I do believe that whether he was at home in bed, bowling alley, wherever he was, that there has to be accountability for the training, for the following of policies and procedures, to make sure that everything works in unison and works together. And I don't think that we've seen that. So I don't have a problem saying that. Again, I like him. When we sat and we talked, I shared with him that I like him, that I think he's a nice guy, but I don't know that he's the right person for this position at this particular time.
Okay, and I understand, because as a leader, your whole demeanor has to be carried even when you're not in the room. I won't let anyone come behind me and say, hey, well, I can wire this house, and trust them to do that without me on their coattail at all times, and been with them maybe 4 or 5 years to see what they can do, you know, because when I'm away, I need wire nuts the same. I need everything the same. So, Hunter, what do you think? Nobody ever asked your opinion, so I'm going to ask you.
It's a good
I want to
question.
hear.
So I'm a big Chief Pinion guy, I'll be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
There has been some things that have come to light actually today that has been on my mind for the past 8 hours that I haven't really had a chance to process just yet. However, at this moment in time, I would not support Chief Pinion's resignation or termination. I think that he's carried the situation out to the best of his ability with what he has. And I've said this before.
What is he like? What he has?
At the end of the day, right? So this happened September 29th. I was out of state when this happened. I got a call when it happened. I didn't wake up the next morning with a handbook on how to handle the situation. And I don't think the police chief did neither. He didn't wake up with a handbook the next morning on how to handle a situation where there's going to be hundreds, thousands of people coming out and saying, you did this wrong, you did this wrong.
So we're being reactive instead of proactive.
Hold on. So as I'm saying, I think he has a handbook on how to enforce the law and how to investigate crimes and how to handle the department when it comes to policies. But I don't think any of us had the right response at that moment in time. However, I did see the statement that was released, which I know you brought up, that was released that morning. And then there was another statement that statement was recanted, and they went and looked at it and said, there was a mishap there, and they fixed it. Do I think that was right or wrong? I'm not going to answer that. However, at the end of the day, I think Chief Pinion has done a fantastic job at leading this department. He's retained and recruited many officers since our prior chief has been here, and there's been many upgrades to the department that's been needed. So with the situation at hand, no, I do not believe Chief Pinion should be terminated or he should resign until some sort of, I guess you can say, bad leadership is shown to me, because.
And that wasn't bad leadership. You just want to give him a chance.
I think he should have a chance, absolutely.
All right, just once again, this is a whole city. These are lives y'all are putting in danger. Okay, we don't have time for people to keep dying before we get things done. You know what I mean? Like, if it's our house, we got to clean it right now.
There's a 3-page checklist to handle this situation.
Jacob?
Well, do you have it? Do you have it with you, Mr. Stewart?
I do.
Let's get it from him.
If you want to go talk to him, walk outside.
If you want to go have the conversation.
Okay.
If not, we're going to continue.
Okay, that's good. That's great.
If we were voting tonight, I think is what your question is, in this moment in time, I would not vote to terminate him. I do think that my biggest issue was with the statement that came out. I think that trust was lost. I've expressed this to Chief Pinion as well. Trust was lost because of that statement. I think that was a big mistake.
Do you ever think he ever had trust from the police? If people up under you can come and lie to you to give that statement, do you think he has any?
I'm trying to have a. You and I always have good conversation. On September 28th, if you would have asked me, has Chief Pinion done a good job since he's been put in place, I would have said absolutely yes.
Why?
Because morale in the department was high. We had a real issue, as all departments do, with recruiting and retention of officers. It's true across the country. It just has been recently, and we had turned that around. Since then,
Right, because he's really not up. We're 3 away.
So since then, the big issue I had was the statement. What I have learned that from conversations with people like you, Terrence, that I didn't know before, has to do with the trust that was broken with the statement and broken in other ways. And that would be my concern. But as of today, I can't point to enough on paper that would support it. That's just where I am today.
So could we trust the police officers that we have on our street to tell Chief Pinion the truth if some things happen?
I do want to say this, and I appreciate the opportunity to answer that. I mentioned earlier that I have known Scott Anderson for a long time. He goes to church with me. I think he's a very, very good person, and I think everything he does with integrity. One statement he made, and I think his intent in the press conference, he did a very good job. I think y'all have expressed that. His intent, and it had to do with when he brought up pay for police officers. Did you hear?
Yes,
I just
yes.
want to make sure I don't have to explain it.
To increase the pay.
Sure, and his comment for that was we had a lot of people that would get hired and get trained and leave, and that was a problem. And I think that he was right about that. We did have that. I think his intent there was to try to get police officers paid more, and I would agree with him there. And we have tried to address that over 3 years. I think that statement could have been taken as we were only left with bad officers, and I completely disagree.
Yeah,
I completely disagree with that. If people took it that way, I don't think his intent was to say that. And let me tell you why. I don't know all the officers. I don't. There's, I don't know how many spots, but 100 plus. But I know, I've gotten to know a lot of officers, and what I can tell you is the ones that I know, they do get up, and I can't remember who said it earlier, but they do get up. They do get up and want to protect and serve the whole community, when they put their uniform on every morning. And they have continued to do that the last 3.5 months. And I have nothing but respect for those guys. I know them personally. I know they're good people. In fact, I know one that has spent his vacation time on the department in Zambia, Africa, with a nonprofit he started to end trafficking. Okay? He's a good guy.
Yeah, he is one of the good ones.
Okay, and another that has spent the last year raising money for CASA, right? For children that are neglected and left behind.
But like they were saying, those malls and stuff don't make you equipped and for that
That's
job
fine. What
for
I'm
the
telling you
office.
is, the guys I know are good police officers, and they have high integrity, and they are trying to serve and protect the whole community. I don't know all of them, so I can't speak to all of them, but to answer the question you asked, that's my answer.
Okay. Well, I'll just Tab, did you want to?
And I want to say this, as I told you, I think in October, whatever that October date was after September 29th, the very first meeting, I want to have these conversations. You know, I gave you my phone number in that meeting, or after the meeting, and I want to talk through that, because I don't understand a lot of the things you've brought to light for me in those brief conversations. So I'm open to talk about that, I always have been.
Yeah, so,
My position remains the same, hasn't changed since it was first asked, that Chief Pinion is the man to serve as chief of police for the city of Decatur.
okay. But, all of these malls are great and everything, but at the end of the day, we have a city, we have lives at stake. If no one can trust you, if I can't be trusted, you know, and my leader, then my leader shouldn't be leading.
So, and what I would say is, when I said, what does that, and I think Kyle kind of said this, what does that look like going forward? He's got to show that he is going to make an effort and has a plan to do that, and I think that would be something that would make me change my mind if there was no real effort.
Right, even with the other officers, like everybody lied, we gotta address them.
That was one of my things to Chief Pinion is, we've lost trust in the community. There needs to be a very clear plan as to how the police department, led by Chief Pinion, aims to gain that trust back.
Right.
Whether or not it's possible, I don't know, but I do think there needs to be a plan, and I think it needs to be a public plan.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I
once
think
we get that third party review, we gotta get rid of Chief Pinion. He still gotta go. I understand, I respect y'all's decisions, but he has to go.
I hear you. Cornelius.
Hey, how y'all doing? Hey, can I put a record? What's Pepper's brother's name? What's your brother's name?
Hey, I'm not gonna.
I'm not. See, that's the problem. That's
No, hold on. Actually, he has something good to say about it.
That's the problem. That's the problem. If you let me speak, then you understand what I'm saying.
His name is Tyler.
All right, I want to give a big shout out to Tyler Pepper, y'all. Last night, I had one of the officers from Decatur City. I was on my way. I had a broken taillight in one of my buddy's car. I was headed to get my daughter some medicine. Told him the story about somebody in high power been targeting me or whatnot, putting false papers on my door about me getting evicted or whatever, moving. Anyway, long story short, this man went in there and bought my daughter some medicine without me even asking. So I'm gonna give him credit. Along with that, I guess I'll just piggyback off of him, because I've been saying negative things about him. So if I'm gonna say negative things and I find out something positive, I'm gonna say something positive about the individual as well. But I guess to piggyback off of Chief Pinion, I agree, he a good guy, but I just feel as though they run over Chief Pinion, and he can't do nothing with him. Because we got a lawyer right here, we got a sergeant right here, and you mind me asking you a question, is this a stop and ID state?
No, I didn't.
No. Is this a stop and ID state?
I'm sorry,
Is
what?
Alabama a stop and ID state?
Stop and ID.
Yes, you can stop an ID.
No, you cannot, sir. Alabama is not a stop and ID state unless you've been convicted of a crime.
That's right.
Or you can state the
But
reason
then
or articulate
you
the
didn't-
suspicion
You didn't
of the
ask me
crime.
if there was exceptions, you just.
But what I'm saying, there's a lot of police officers that do that. For instance, last night I pretty much thought I was going to go to jail again because one of your city officers are sitting there in Priceville at the pilot, followed me to the pilot, turn around and brought up by my car, which is Mr. Holcomb, that I have an issue with all the time. All the time. I guess he got demoted from the narcotics because he became a sergeant in less than 3 months. I guess he surpassed everybody for some reason. I don't know. Somebody can explain that. But he went over there when I'm at the gas station and went over there and talked to Hunter Pepper's brother. I didn't know it was him at first, but it was 2 Morgan County officers over there. When I got pulled over, you know what Mr. Holcomb did? He went over there to the Burger King and the Dairy Queen and sat there and watched them while they pulled me over. You know what I mean? Like, at this instance, I am a licensed gun holder. You know what I mean? I'm not making any threats at all. But at this point, I'm scared of y'all, man. And before I die, I'm gonna take somebody with me. But I just don't want to be, targeted or be bothered. But that is unprofessional, is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about this is not the first time. I'm piggybacking back to Chief Pinion because car 1546 followed me all the way from Decatur City over the bridge. All the way, I told Chief Pinion about it. Told Chief Pinion about Compton. I told Chief Pinion about another officer that was violating somebody else's rights. You know what I mean? He told me that he talked to Compton about it. He said, man, I talked to him several times. He just won't listen. Then I just have to do what I got to do. So when I say that, I'm saying that it's meaning that he's a man for his demeanor. I like him, man. You know what I mean? But one thing about it, I feel as though the officers are running over him, doing what they want to do. You know what I'm saying? So, and then what you saying that tab, okay, if he made that mistake, right? He made that mistake with the paperwork, you ain't get a man not even a slap on the wrist, man. Not no type of paperwork, no nothing. That's all I'm saying. So it's looking so that you're showing favoritism. Not saying that you is, but that's what it looks like. Because he didn't even get a slap on the wrist for making a false statement. Even though it's called accountability, at least it was one mistake. Hold him accountable for it. All right.
Claudette Owens.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My first question is, I didn't hear anything about the tow ordinance, so I'd like to have an update.
So what we had discussed had to do with potential wrongful, is that what you're talking about? Wrongful repossession. There are civil penalties, I think I told you that last week, and they're civil penalties are very high, and I don't know, as far as the actual dollar amount of penalty in a wrongful repossession. I don't know that there's anything it would be very difficult for us to add to that. I mean, I've heard 6-figure claims on wrongful repossession. So it's just continuing to try to work through something that can work, but if we put $50,000, I mean, they can be sued for a large amount of money for wrongful repossession and lose their ability to do repossessions. So I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that.
Are you referring to the ordinance where there's repossessions aren't allowed between a certain time and a certain time?
Yes, the ordinance that myself and Dr. Rice put before you some weeks ago.
But we had discussion on that, and
We thought
that was our last discussion.
Okay.
Can we continue to, because I really want to see something.
We will. It's kind of like the issue last week, the 2 words, and everybody wanted that to be voted on that night. Well, there's more than 2 words that need to be changed, and I think that's good. I mean, we were able to work through that this week, got some information. These things are not ever as, when you first you and Dr. Rice really brought the first, I thought, well, that makes sense to me, and then I think you would agree, when we start to unpack it, there's a lot of ramifications. And so, yes, continue to work, and I think we can bring Herman or legal in to help us with that, but.
Well, Dr. Rice and I follow up and have another visit, because I don't want this to get lost.
No,
because
and you and I did communicate about this last week.
I want to continue to bring it up. I don't want to get lost, because I think I only came up here to talk about that, really, but I think as I sit and listen, and I'm listening to everybody's heart, I think the biggest problem we have, number one, is communication. I heard a whole lot of things that Chief Pinion did during the time, like he had to make some hard decisions. Every time someone came, they got no information. Maybe if you had communicated earlier that Chief Pinion had making some hard decisions about some things and that had nothing to do with what was going on, could have just shared, maybe they could have had a better opinion about Chief Pinion.
Well,
wait, let me finish, please. The other thing is that just me getting reports, I'm seeing things and hearing over and over and over that certain officers always on the night shift continue to antagonize citizens is a concern. And someone needs to speak up about it. I mean, here, whatever we can do. Someone needs to talk to whoever the night shift supervisor is. Maybe he needs to be talking to whoever. That's a problem. That's an issue. And it should not be allowed to continue. And let me share something with you all that you may not know, because I hear so much on on social media from the other, I don't want to say other side, because someone said that in church previously, and got a but some in the community proceed. Let me make this clear. The black community is not against the blue, okay? I have blue in my family. As a matter of fact, Pastor One, because I have your 3 minutes. Okay. As a matter of fact, I have family deep in the blue, from sheriff's deputies to detectives to officers to state troopers. Matter of fact, my own brother, before his death with cancer, started off as a policeman in Maryland, then spent a decorated FBI agent, a decorated DEA agent, even arrested some of my own people. Got a brother that was in jail, escorted him to the family funeral, took him right back. That's hard decisions. So we're not against blue. What we are against is undisciplined, renegade, rogue blue who won't be reeled in. That's the problem. And so we're just asking you to work with us as we want to move on. We want to move on and bring the community together. We want to see some policy, we want to see some procedures that we can trust. We had one of the police officers, I think he's very trustworthy, wanted to know what we could do to start having some community things. And I told him I think he's right. It's going to have to be the community. And they're going to have to get out of the community and learn them. But I'm not sure if the community would trust it at this point. So we need to see some action. And it would be good if we could hear more and see more soon, because it's just getting worse. And these guys are continuing to do things. And seeing an officer with a personal vendetta out at Walmart fighting, that was not a good look for us. It just was not. And so I'm just saying, I think what we're saying is, and y'all know I will work on policy all day long. I write proposals for a living, so I'm ready to work. Ready to get it moving? Call me anytime. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you, ma'am. All right.
Hey, I just want to answer. One of you mentioned about why have we not communicated the things that Chief Pinion's been doing in the interim. One is I don't know what those are, and some of them have had other conversations that I've had. One of my frustrations has been Chief Pinion should be communicating those things. So, exactly. And I've talked to him about that. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's important. If you're doing things behind the scenes, if you're doing things within the department, if you're reaching out to community members, having substantive conversations, he needs to talk about those things. He's not community-based. So that would be my answer to that. I can't speak to what I don't know.
Well, he had a liaison that's been sitting here most of the time, being quiet.
But I do think it's his responsibility to communicate that. Not his, it's the chief's.
It is the chief.
And I, just on a side note, you're one of the smartest people I've been around. Dr. Rice is quick to point out your resume. I know I'm not supposed to talk about it. And I do appreciate it. You've educated me on a lot of things. So again, I think we can have those substantive conversations continuing. But as far as what the chief has done in a positive way, he needs to communicate that.
He does. But the only reason I made that comment was because Mr. McMaster just said that he's done something. So it would have been great to have heard that.
Sure. Thank you.
You all, for example, Ladner, you spoke about retention and recruitment, knowing the information regarding those two things, but no one has talked about racism. You all don't want Todd Pinion to resign because he's a nice guy and he did the best he could with what he had. But you all lack education with black people. Amen. Steve was not the first black man to be killed by the police. It's over 1,000 black men, women, and children who have been killed nationally on television by the police. Our history is literally a case study for you all to learn from. So I don't want to hear he doesn't have the resources. I don't want to hear he doesn't know better and he's a nice guy. That's right. Do your job. That's right. Read, research. Education is what you all lack. If you comprehend what you can read and study, you would know how to effectively communicate. Right. Steve was a nice man, and he did the best he could with what he had. And I wish if only you all backed an innocent black man the way you all are backing this wrong white man.
That's right. That's right. Come on. That's right.
To the mayor, this is the 14th city council meeting, and you have yet to prove you are a good person who has good intentions. I would call you a leader, but you are not a leader. Part of being a leader is knowing what you can and cannot do when a situation happens that unsettles this city. And also knowing how to do your job properly. You don't know your duties unless you are told. You are reactive and not proactive. You do not know how to govern this city properly, and you need to resign, as well as Ty Pinion. Last week we celebrated Steve's legacy. You closed City Hall. Why?
No comment.
Okay. The very next day his memorial was taken down, but his family has it. You are doing things to slow down the momentum of this movement so we can move on, and it's not happening. You closed a government building that the community needs for no reason at all. We haven't threatened you. There has been no violence. Your police department started the fight. You can't start a fight and then dictate how the community responds. I just want you to know that this is far from over. This is not something that we're getting over in a few months. It's not happening. This city is rotten and is rooted in racism. And restructuring the city will take time. And more importantly, we are moving on until we get justice for Steve. Justice for Steve is at this city hall, at this courthouse in this city, and around the world. You closed City Hall, his memorial was taken down, and we had well-known national organizers who came here to stand in solidarity with this movement. Your police officers pulled them over for not putting on their turning signal over 100 yards out from their turn. They were pulled out of the car, they took one of their phones, they frisked them, they searched their car 4 to 5 times, and one was placed with handcuffs and then let go, like none of that happened. During Steve's celebration of life, whomever, and I don't know who it is, but you planned on inciting and antagonizing us, and it failed. We are sick of your ignorance and your disrespect. You are embarrassment to this city. The community has made it known that we want you to resign, and that is what you need to do. Regarding protesting, you have until the end of this month to self-correct your statement regarding needing a permit to protest, or legal action will follow. And in regard to, lastly, to the stolen items of the memorial, I filed a police report. Those items were mine. A Freedom of Information Act request has been put in place, and they told me today that legal didn't know what I needed. I want footage to who stole my items. So I don't want it withheld. They told me directly that legal asked what I needed. I want footage regarding who stole my items.
That's right.
Michelle Garner.
You know, I do want to respond to something about threats that have been made to me. Last week, there was a speaker that said that they were here for one reason and only one reason, and that was justice for Steve Perkins. And they were going to get that by any means possible. And there were other people around the country that were willing to come in here and help with that. And that they had no respect for anyone up here, pretty much in the city, as it relates to authority. Then there was another that said that ain't no one caring about your grandchildren, your wife, your family. Fire's going to rain down on you. And then someone else said that I feel like that my boys can in blue can save me. Trust me, they can't save you, is what I was told. I don't see how that's not threatening to me. And how.
Can somebody give you
That was, he responded to her question.
I mean, it's clearly a threat.
No, it's not a threat. The problem is that you lack comprehension when it comes to culture and black people in this city. When they mean any means necessary, that doesn't mean violence. There are thousands of ways that we can get justice for Steve without having to do it illegally or violently. That is your problem. You tolerate black people, you do not respect black people, so you don't understand black people. Just because we say things to you in that manner does not mean we're trying to harm you in any way. There are multiple ways that we can get justice for Steve Perkins.
I'll take it, yes to be yes and no.
I can't, that's how you take it, but you're wrong, and you have a community telling you that you're wrong. From all walks of life telling you that you're wrong. So if this is a crowd of people, come from all different places in Decatur, different education circumstances, we're telling you that you're wrong, and you still want to say that we're threatening you. But y'all out here killing us. Y'all out here targeting innocent people. That is threatening. Pike, can I ask you a question? Do you think the mayor does a good job? If you had to rate him from 1 to 10, what would you rate him?
I'm not going to answer a rate of 1 to 10.
But do you,
Are there things
could
that
he
I
do
wish
better?
the mayor would do different or would have done different? Yes. I'm not in that job, so I can't say how I would have responded for a fact, but is that enough?
Thank you, Pike. What about you, Ivan?
I would say the same, and when I have disagreements with the mayor, which we do, I'll tell him. And he thinks I do think, he thinks things I do are wrong too, and he tells me, so I've expressed those.
And you, Mr. Jackson?
The mayor once said that I don't get along with anybody on the council, and I never have. And the last term, it started out that I was the only one who would communicate with the mayor when we started out. And as time went on, and he started, time went on, and I started to find the things that he said to me were untruthful, then I started to lose confidence in that. And since that time, I felt that he is not very capable of holding this position.
Mac Masters, do you think the mayor is capable of doing his job? Do you think he does a good job?
I'm sure he wishes there was, no, hang on, and I hate to say Hunter kind of hit the nail on the head. I'm sure he wishes there were some things he would have done different. But anybody who is willing to serve and know the criticism that comes with it, it's not an easy job, and we all make mistakes. We're all human, we all do. I don't know, could he have done better? I think he'll tell you he could have done a better job, but I also think we've had worse mayors.
One. I'm sorry,
No, it's okay. So, I'm just gonna say this. We don't have time for you all to keep trying to catch up. You said that he didn't live in Morgan County. He spoke at every city council we've had. We've protested without permits. You all keep finding ways to antagonize and interfere with what we're doing, but you don't do it from the beginning. Something is wrong there. Something is wrong there. And we're not putting up with it no more. We can't afford to lose anyone else in our community or in this city, period. So y'all better figure it out, and that's not a threat.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, she was on her way up.
I wasn't gonna say anything. I've been here ever since this thing started, and I'm a friend of the Perkins family, and Nicholas goes to my church, and I have a lot of respect for his mother and the family. But I've sit and I've watched Tab, and I mean, when you were going from black church to black church, I told those people, I said, don't y'all feed into this, because he's a crook. But a lot of people didn't see what I saw. I got a spirit of discernment, and I saw straight through you. When I retired, I bought a car, and I went to Canterbury one night, and I fell into not a pothole, it was a crater in the street. So I came up here. Well, on my way up here that next day, I told my mom, I said, I'm gonna take a picture of that hole. I said, because I got a feeling they're gonna try to fix that hole before they fix my car. So I came and talked to you, and I asked you, I said, you need to fix my car because it tore my tire up and my rim. You said, I can't do that. I said, oh, yes, you can. You said, no, I can't. But on my way up here, I took a picture of that hole, and I told my mother, I said, before I get back home, he's gonna send somebody out to fix that hole. So on my way back home, I went by Canterbury, and you had sent the city out, and they were fixing that hole. But I already had a picture of it. I knew then, I said, what I said about you being a crook, that just verified it. So I called Billy Jackson, and my pastor, and they got on it and got my tire fixed and my rim. Not only to say that, but I just have one more thing to ask, and that's for you, Peppers. Do you still feel the same way about the police/murderer? Do you still support him?
I'm not gonna make a comment on it.
I didn't think you would. That's all I got to say.
Reggie.
Good evening. I know I asked last time about the moratorium, and I guess what did the attorney got? I'm gonna have to ask for another minute when he gets back, because I need to just ask him a simple question. I think last time he gave me his opinion. I just want to know what the law is. I don't need his opinion.
Reggie, do you want to let someone else go before?
Yeah,
so that he can come back? Is that okay?
Well, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna just say it as blunt as I can. The reason why that y'all are taking up for Chief Pinion is because you all are white. McMasters, Bowling, Landers, you all are white. So you're not gonna see it the way that I see it. This police department is a racist police department. They're coming after us. They're targeting us. They're racial profiling us. No, you can go home to your little white community and you're okay. But I can be out here and just go to Texaco and they think that I'm some thug or some bad person and they target me. That's coming from the leadership of Mr. Todd Pinion. And y'all are taking up for him, yes, because he's white. Y'all trying to play this good old boys game. But it should not be like that in the city of Decatur, because this city is not made up with just white people. This city is made up of everybody, Hispanics, blacks, and all. And I don't like the way that you all just sit up there and you're going to take his side just because he's white. Who gives a damn that he's white? We need to get this city cleaned up. And Tab, you can move those memorials all day long. You can have those memorials moved. You can do whatever you want to. But when we set those memorials out there, they just wasn't a memorial. They was an altar, baby. And so their spirits is going to hover around all over here. And until you do right by us, everything you think about is going to fail. Till you do right by us in this city, nothing is going to go right for you all. Let me tell you something, what you're not even looking in, why Todd Pinion got to go. This is stuff I've been holding. Yeah, I know who messed up, vandalized the things. I'm waiting on you all to say it, because guess what? I saw it with my own two eyes, and I hope they can hear me saying it too. I saw it with my own two eyes. It's the boys in the blue. Yeah, all these threats that's coming at us is coming from the boys in the blue. The enemy is in this house, and y'all sitting over here just ladder-gagging and, oh, I love this person, I love Chief Pinion and all this kind of stuff. There's an atom bomb getting ready to explode. And this atom bomb that's getting ready to explode is not so much with us, but it's coming that they're coming at us. But guess what? We're not going to just let the police beat us up. We're not going to let the police just shoot us. We're coming at them too. I've always been a good citizen, but I had family that worked in that department, but I'm not bowing down to them. Now you see why the chief of police has got to go? It's the culture that he set in this city. Let them answer. Do y'all see that?
No. You said that we're all up here defending him because he's white.
Yeah. that's what white people
Well,
do.
you're wrong. You're wrong. You see, and don't take offense to this, but quite a bit of people that have come up here to speak tonight have made this about race.
It is about race.
It's not about race. It's not about race. You're not in that situation. You weren't there. You don't know if it was about race.
It's about
Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Let me ask you something. So you say that our department is racist. If a black male officer or a black female officer pulls you over, are they racist? Are they? There is plenty of them here. Are they racist? No, that's not, Mr. Stovall, that is not what you said. That is not what you said, Mr. Stovall. You said this is a racist department.
It is a racist department.
It is not a racist department. It is a very diverse department. You can disagree with that all you want, but
Go to the next person.
numbers do not lie.
Well,
Numbers
I
do not lie.
can't even pay you any attention when I see you on
Mr. Stovall.
Facebook talking about titties.
Mike,
If you were city council.
we gotta let Reggie speak. I appreciate what you had to say. Thank you.
Oh, I got one more thing. I really want you to see this. Okay, these are the people that y'all been targeting for the last few months. This is the night shift. They're very good citizens. They are your young professionals. They are your young business owners. And that's why I'm standing here on behalf of the night shift, because y'all don't even know them. They don't even look like crooks. They're not crooks. Because just because they stand at your house tab and call you tabby, do you not know what protesting means? Protesting is the voice of the unheard.
Thank you.
Good evening again. For the attorney, last time I think I asked about the moratorium, and you kind of gave your opinion. But what I want to know tonight, and I'm just asking you specifically, can the City Council of Decatur put a moratorium on police chases for misdemeanors? That's a yes or no answer. I don't want to know what you, because last time you said, I don't think they should. I need to know legally the answer to that question.
Council would have to adopt an ordinance to do that, yes.
But they can do it.
They can certainly bring one forth if that's what
Reggie,
they want to do.
can I
Yeah.
respond? The reason, and probably why you're asking, is Reggie and I had a
Yeah, we
conversation.
put
If you don't mind me saying
Yeah.
that.
Just don't take 1 minute.
I wouldn't advise them to do that, but
Very
that's up
20
to them,
seconds.
okay?
The reason, that, what's going on in Mobile, right? There's a
Uh-huh.
lot of conversation about can a city council, they've asked for the attorney general, I sent you the article too, to rule basically, can a city council really have any authority over police policy is the question. And what Mobile's council is saying is no. Now that some of their councils are pushing, council members are pushing back on that, saying that they can, and they've asked the attorney general to give an opinion. I don't think he has yet, but that's probably where Reggie's question
Right,
is coming.
that's where I was going. But
Well,
until he does that, I
Yeah,
guess
we answered before. Police have the requirement and the responsibility to enforce the law. And for the council to say, do not enforce the law, I would have trouble with it.
a lot of councils have put moratoriums. And I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm saying also what will make the attorney general give an opinion, you all do it.
Yeah, well,
You do it, you make the ordinance, and then he have to make an opinion on it.
I don't
But
want to
you-
interrupt you, but you get an opinion of that nature before you do it. You don't
No,
ask for forgiveness.
But I just asked you, you say they could do it.
I
So-
said I wouldn't advise them doing it, but
Yeah, but you say they could, so I need the council to act on that, and then we'll get an opinion. But let me just go forward on this. I actually attended the panel this past weekend. A young lady there, Mona Hardin, I met her. Very interested in what she said, and I didn't really know about this case in Louisiana. But 5 Louisiana officers was charged after the deadly arrest of an unarmed black man in 2019. Now, this happened in 2019, but 3 years later, they figured out the police actually killed him. What came out, they chased him, so he hit a tree, he died because of the injury from hitting that tree. But what she determined is that the officers tased him and choked him to death. Now, my grandson, the story is, we know what happened. We saw some of the video. Still hadn't seen all the video.
But we saw some of it. They say he died on impact hitting a tree. Do we know that? No. That's why you have to investigate and policy. This is 3 years later. She just finding out the police killed her son. So we can say all day, and I'm not against the police. I'm not against the police. But this kind of stuff happened. Even the death certificate, she said they put 2 death certificates out. One saying one thing they gave her, the other one was, that they gave the public was something different. 2 death certificates. A lot of people have been removed, fired, charged, all the way up from the police chief to everybody. And that's what we're saying. That's why this stuff is so important. And put yourself in our shoes. I'm a black man. I'm not saying whether it's racist or not. I'm just keeping it real. I've had a gun to my head from a police officer with 11 more standing around me. I've had that to happen. You all hadn't experienced that, most of you. But if you talk to, if you got any black friends or associates, ask them about their interaction with the police. Right. Don't matter what. I'm an engineer. I'm a colonel, retired.
Thank you for your
and let's talk about the, when I first went to active duty, we had a young man that drowned. He jumped off the rope into the water, drowned. 5 people got relieved. None of those 5 was on the scene, but the commander, the next in charge, everybody got relieved of duty. That's what you all have to understand. It ain't nothing about Todd Pena. He probably is a good man. But the key is you have to take accountability and responsibility. And that's what the military does. They don't care who you are, black, white, green, or yellow. But if you're in charge and something like that happens, they take action. You are relieved of duty. So in this particular case, a lot of people were relieved, and this was 3 years later. So we're going to continue to investigate.
We've been at 3 minutes.
Yeah, we're gonna continue to investigate. We're going to continue to push. But at the same time, we don't want to find out. I don't want my daughter to figure out 3 years later that the police killed my grandson.
She gave you time if you needed.
Yeah. So we need to, and let's forget the black and white. We talking about incidents. And it was 2 in September. 2 in September. I don't know the report that was filed on my grandson. I don't believe it was true. Because of all the other things. Everything needs to be looked at. Everything. And we're going to continue to push for that. But don't make it on, whether or not the police. This is a prime example. 3 years later. The police killed this man. Can you believe that? Yeah, they're human. And when they chased my grandson, something was going on. As I mentioned last time, they chased him into a dead end. That was a long way into the dead end. Let him drive all the way back out and then start chasing them again.
It don't add up.
Now, as a 16-year-old, he probably thought, oh, I'm good then. Then you start chasing him again to his death. It makes no sense. That's why I'm saying a moratorium and actually looking at the policies to make sure they make sense. It may make sense to some folks. That don't make sense to me. Because the objective is to catch the person that you're running from, that's running. So putting a 90-day moratorium or whatever it is, just a pause. You probably save some lives. That's all I'm saying. I'm not asking for nothing, that magical. That's why I asked the question to the attorney. And he said, you all can do it. So I'm saying, let's take that action and do it. And the Attorney General come back and say, hey, you can't do it, okay. But I think we have to take action to make action. So I'm asking the city council to make that just to see for those particular policies. And this young man that they killed, it was a traffic violation. Maybe he ran a red light, maybe his signal light. That's probably what it was. They stopped him because he didn't turn his signal light on. So all I'm saying is, let's put this moratorium in place. Let's look at the policies and make sure the policy just makes sense. It makes sense. But this here really opened my eyes to some things. Because first off, we believe what we hear. When my grandson got killed, he hit the tree, he died on impact. Now there's a whole lot of questions about that because of what's going on, the culture and all of that. And the first thing they said in the paper, the case was closed, wasn't there going to be no investigation? That happened quickly. So now, this, like I said, this 3 years later, on this particular case, you just found out that the police choked this young man and killed him. But anyway, so you heard from the attorney that you all can do an ordinance.
But in all fairness, I said I would not advise them to do it.
I asked for your
I know that, but
I didn't ask for your opinion.
I know you said that, but I wanted to at least.
Well, let me
make sure.
just say this again. Mr. Attorney, can you give us the legal on what the city council of Decatur can do when it comes to police chasers on misdemeanors? I don't need your opinion, I need to know the law, the legal.
All right, I've answered your question, okay? I appreciate it, that's all. I told you they could.
Well, we'll ride it back, I know what you're saying. You said they could do it.
Yeah,
Thank you,
okay.
sir.
Yeah, thank you.
I've heard a lot of things said tonight, and I'm really surprised. I actually appreciate you all being vocal. When you all are given the opportunity to speak and you actually do, you show us your ignorance. And it's either that you do not know or you choose to ignore. There are two definitions of ignorance. You either do not know or you choose to ignore. And because we've had 14 city council meetings where we've come and told you all the same things, I'm not gonna say you don't know. I'm going to say you choose to ignore. And because you choose not to have meaningful conversations with people outside of the police department, the actual people who voted for you, you're ignorant to what happens in your community. You insulate yourselves with the people who look like you, sound like you, think like you. And you do not reach out. I heard you say that Pinion was, he was a moral man, he was a good man, he's nice, he's all these things. I had an employee not very long ago who, she was very nice, very good employee, everybody loved her. And I kept asking her to do some things. One, stop staying late, too late, even got locked in the building one time because she was staying late. And so I started putting her on a schedule and making her do what I asked her to do. And one night I left work and I came back and she had circled back and came back and was in the building and wasn't supposed to be. And I pulled up to her and I said, you know what? Just because you're very sweet and you smile when I ask you to do things, when you don't do them, you're still being disrespectful and disobedient. I don't care how nice you are. The only people, and hear me, and I'm not trying to be racist, I'm being honest with you. The only time that people are given forgiveness and grace and on-the-job training is when they're white. Other people are not given that grace. And I need you to understand that it's he gotta go, she's gotta go if we make a mistake. None of you would have ever gotten pulled over Saturday night leaving Steve's celebration because you failed to signal in time. Didn't signal. You failed to turn your blinker on within 100 yards or whatever of where you were turning. We tell y'all these things week after week that he's done. And we're not even talking about the culture prior to when Steve died. We're telling you things that he's done since then. And you keep going, well, I hope he shows me. I had a conversation with him a couple of weeks ago. We 3 months out. 4 almost, and he hasn't shown you any of the things that you asked him to do. He's holding a press conference tomorrow for what? That's right. He hadn't held one since this happened, and you said, which one of you said Pinion was asleep when this happened? He was asleep, but what did he wake up to do? To put out a lie. He woke up to do that. He woke up to go and make sure his officers were okay. Did he wake up and go to Cotrella's house and ask her or tell her? They searched. They went to Decatur General looking for Steve. He wasn't there. The officers, nobody told them where he was. Nobody said, oh no, Steve's not there, he's here. They had to find out where he was. And then they raced to Huntsville to only then for them to say, well, we can't tell you anything. We don't know. There was not an officer there. If he was such a criminal and such a bad person, why wasn't there an officer stationed at Huntsville Hospital, if nothing else, to guard him? None of that. They didn't do that. When we got back, nobody came to her house. No officers came to her house. Pinion didn't call her and say, hey, this is what happened. He didn't do that. But we give him grace. He didn't know what to do. And I'm going to tell you why you give him grace. Because you didn't do it either. Because you made the same mistakes he made. Did you call Catrella? When?
Not as soon as I should have.
Not as soon as you should have. And Pinion didn't either. So because you can see yourself making those same mistakes is the reason why you want us to give him grace. The chief of police is not an OJT situation. I understand. What I'm telling you all is, we sit here every week and we tell you the things that he has not done. And you continue to say, well, he's going to show up. You know why morale went up when he got hired? Because they knew they had somebody that wasn't going to do anything to them. They were like, shoot, we good. We got somebody on our side. That's the problem. When they got that happy about an internal affairs person coming to be their chief, you should have questioned that. But I need you to hear your citizens and understand that just because this doesn't fit your life, or just because it doesn't happen to you, does not mean it does not happen. And you take responsibility for that, just as Pinion should.
Well, a whole nother agenda now. Ask you something, Tab. Could you repeat the threats that you said was happening? Because I was involved in one of those allegations you just spoke on.
I made some quick notes. They ain't gonna care about your grandkids, your wife. Fire's gonna rain down on you.
Well, you are slandering my actual statement because I did tell you that you had opened a veil in this city. You heard me? I said you removed the veil off the eyes of the people and you took the shackles of fear off of people. And I did tell you that it was a spiritual warfare that was going to hit you and that the wrath of God and the demons and the spiritual demons weren't going to care about your $106, nor your mother, nor your grandchildren, nor your wife, nor anybody around you. Because you removed the veil off the eyes of the people. They can see the racism behind you and the lack of care that you have and the lack of empathy that you have and the lack of transparency that you have. So you will not slander my conversation. You will not slander my message. We all got it on video. So you got to go ahead, if you're going to put some parts in it, put the whole thing in it. Don't be another Dale Jackson where he slandered my message on the radio. Because my message was straight to you, straight facts, that you removed the veil off the eyes of the people and showed your true colors. And I said the spiritual warfare, the portal that you have opened in this city, have you smelled the air? Have you looked at the sky? Because it's coming for you, Tab. It's coming for you. The wrath of God is coming for you. Because why? You have shown the evilness that's within you, bro. You have shown the lack of empathy to everybody out here in their questions. So don't slander my message, because my message was straight from the Spirit and straight from the Word. So you and Dale Guess, get it right next time. Because I told you, what I told you was the blood is on your hands. Why did I tell you the blood was on your hands? Because your officers were snatching people off the sidewalk. Your officer was slamming people on the ground. Your officer was out there abusing people. And y'all was trying to put all the blame on Tab, on Officer Pinion. I said, no, Tab, the blame is on you because they did it in the name of the mayor. The mayor said this and the mayor said that. That's what I said to you, bro. And I said the blood is on your hands. That means the consequences to everything that goes on is on your hands. Because why? You are the spiritual wickedness in high places. Ain't you higher than anybody else in here? Right, and I said that. So don't slander my message, brother. And I'll say it again. We never noticed the root of the tree dying until the branches start to fall. When are you going to nourish the root? We had already seen you pouring gasoline on it right now. You ain't never nourished it. You feel me? Real talk. We are the fruit of this city. Whether we live in Decatur or not, our blood, pain, and tears and our ancestors built this city. We can speak up about this city. I built and bricked a lot of houses in the city. Over where you play pickleball too. I built a whole lot of houses over there by the clubhouse in Point Mallard and a couple of the famous doctors and football players over there. Yeah, I bricked their houses, brother. So yeah, my blood, pain, and tears are in this city. My sweat is in this city. My children come to this city. I spend my money in this city. So when it's a city concern, and especially with my brother, Steve Perkins, Stephen Clay Perkins is my family member, I'm going to speak. No matter if I was in Michigan, I would fly down and still come speak. But don't slander my message, because my message still stands. God's wrath is up on you in every decision that you make. Because you don't touch them, you don't touch the anointing ones of God. See, God said, put on the whole armor of God so that ye may stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against great powers, and against the rulers of the darkness of this world, which in spiritual wickedness in high places, which you are, and you have showed the color. So don't take my message, and I told you in the message last week, this ain't a threat. I said it was a spiritual message, because I saw the vision. I saw the dream of the locusts coming around the tunnel, bro, and your face was in the middle. Baby, what's up? Hey, listen, here's my question. Here's my question. Where's the plan of correction? What are we going to do to fix this? All right? Have y'all sat down together and said, look, here's the problem. How are we going to fix this? Because, we need a plan of correction. You understand me? Brainstorm. Plan of correction. Plan of correction. You want to talk, now talk.
Go to the next
You
person.
see what I mean? You see what I mean? And then see, here's the thing, y'all. It's not us against y'all. Because we live here. I ain't going nowhere. I live here, brother. I ain't got nowhere to go. I live here, so I want the city to be the best city. But y'all, it can't be better if y'all bitter. You bitter. And bitter don't make it better. I'm telling you something good. And that's why you got to sit down with everybody and come up with a plan of correction. We need to fix this. You understand what I'm saying? We got to fix it and let the chips fall where they may. Whoever got to go, you got to go. That's just how it is. And another thing, you've all said you were sorry, but you ain't never said they was wrong. You ain't never, and see, you the one that fired them. But the Bible says that if you be willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. Well, you were obedient because you fired, but you wasn't willing. You wasn't willing, baby. See, little Johnny, you tell little Johnny to sit down. Little Johnny sit down. He argued the whole time to sit down. He's obedient, but he ain't willing. That's why he ain't eating. And that's why you feeling the way you feeling, man. And that filth ain't gonna solve it. It ain't gonna solve it. When you come down, it's gonna be the same problem. We got a problem. We got a problem. We got a problem here, y'all. And then I'm gonna say this to you all. Listen to me. You gotta get your heart right. You gonna have to forgive. You gonna have to, cause y'all, we gonna go forward. We gonna have to forgive. That's how it is. But we gonna also in our forgiving, you gonna have to get right. Cause we ain't backing down. No, we ain't scared. We ain't running. Y'all know that by now. We ain't running. You can't tell us anything. You can't pee in my head and tell me it's raining outdoors. You can see now, you don't understand that because you don't know the culture. I'm telling you, you don't understand. Now you'll say I said something crazy, but I didn't because you understand. All right. So now, let's get a plan of correction. Let's sit down. Communication rule the nation. You know, and let me tell you something else too. And the people y'all are hiring, that ain't gonna see. There's some stuff happening right here, y'all. You can't teach at the University of Alabama. You can't learn in college. You got to get some folks that can live this thing. That's been around it. People that have suffered it. They got to be a part of the healing. You going wasting money and bringing in folks from out of town, from big bad neighborhoods. They don't know about nobody suffering. Man, they don't know about no police pulling them over. They don't know nothing about that. They've been spoon fed. We have to mud. You feel me? Yeah. I'm from Sunset. 25 years, 4 months, 3 weeks, and 4 days. We moved on the 3rd. I'm going to say that, but this, you're going to have to reach out here and bring some of us up in this thing. The Bible said, not of this fold. You got to bring some folks up out here and sit down with y'all. All right? All right.
Okay, so I guess just a few quick things. The Decatur Police Department policies that you obviously need to research are 100.4A and B, which are post-deadly force procedure and checklist, which is gone over in your police department. And I went over that a few weeks ago, how Todd Pinion and all the officers involved did like maybe 1 or 2 of the things on the checklist rather than all of the things listed. And if they're so good, You got the picture of Night Shift, everybody they're targeting. Yeah, they tried, I guess, to arrest me, but all they could give me was a ticket, and they're so good that they got the address wrong on my ticket. They got the wrong street from where they had pulled me over at. But they're a great police department, right? They're CALEA accredited. They're a great police department. Yeah, there needs to be some reform. I don't understand why we're still having to argue about that. I really don't. And you're threatened by outsiders coming into your city. You're lucky that they came into your city and stood at this podium and spoke to you. Do you understand that? So many other cities have dealt with police brutality and have not got the same love here that you have here. Is that a threat to say that you have love here?
Stop the yelling.
Excuse you. I'll save it for outside your house. My bad. And also, everybody asked the question of, do you think the chief is good? Do you think your mayor is good? Let me ask you a very vital question. Do you think your legal is good?
Yes.
The one you keep referring to?
Yes.
He knows the laws.
Yes.
He doesn't just give you his opinion. He knows the laws right when you ask him. He knows how to fix an ordinance right when you ask him.
Yes.
I mean, come on, guys. Come on. Don't play us all stupid. We all can look at it and see. Y'all interfere with us rather than collaborate with us. I mean, I read your handbook and said to you in your chapter 2 of mayor, the office of the mayor, that the mayor should be more than willing to seek common ground when there's issues. And you have not been more than willing to do anything but sit here and be rude to all of us for no reason. Chief Pinion has got to go. I have talked to so many of you about this, and I've told you so many times that, okay, yeah, but what's the plan of action? Okay, it's January 8th. Did none of you have New Year's resolutions? Does none of you want to actually fix this stuff with your community by the start of the new year? It's January 8th. Where is Todd Pinion? Okay, he's holding something tomorrow. Cool. Where has he been since? He doesn't speak with the community. And the internal investigation happened 2 weeks after, which is already shady enough. No matter if it completed before the criminal investigation, we already knew they weren't supposed to be there because that's Alabama state law, not Decatur City Code and Policy. He interviewed the officers too soon, even though the FBI recommends against it, which he just did training at. So obviously his training didn't help. They repoed Steve Perkins' car, and he apologized for that, but didn't get the car back. Okay, he made a false statement, then had to retract it. That's too much. He doesn't speak with the public. He doesn't speak with his officers. He obviously did not tell them to keep their hands off us when we were outside your house, because that's not what happened. He's 18 years out of his 25-year pension. He was an internal affairs officer for Decatur. He has no accountability. It's about holding up the chain of command, and it's about keeping the communication lines with your community, because I've said this over and over. They are shredded, and that is not a difference of opinion. That is a fact.
Thank you. Kim Jackson. Okay. Alvin Mosley.
So, I was not going to speak at all. In your office, I spoke to you. But God, like, it's almost like you all are not even human. Like, to sit here and see your facial expressions, or see you respond in some of the ways that you do. And I would hope that as city councilmen, you all possess some level of education, higher education. But you all, your emotional quotient is very low. Like, your emotional intelligence seems to be next to non-existent when it comes to us. Or, I can't even speak for everybody, I'm gonna say people who look like me. And I say that because I'm a very detached person. Anybody who knows me can tell you this. I usually don't operate out of emotions, but my emotions have been so high when dealing with this. Almost like I've become a different person. I have to pray for the malice to leave my heart at night before I can sleep. The way that you all respond to us is very master to slave. Like you all are tone deaf to the entire situation at hand. You say, like when I spoke with you with the memorial, it's time to move on. Time to move on from what? You say Chief Pinion doesn't need to go. I hear you all speak highly of him and say that he's a great man. Steve was in his bed asleep that night, right? Or he was at home. Yesterday, a policeman in Tahoe got behind me as I'm driving to my parents' house and my nephew's in the passenger seat. I'm sure that my car is known because I'm here all the time. It's like he was not even an arm's distance from my bumper. He followed me all the way to my parents' house into the driveway, and then he sat there. My nephew began to open the door to get out of the car as I had let the garage up so he could enter. I told him to close the door. I'm very vocal when it comes to standing on what I believe in. So I'm willing to die about anything that I believe in as a man, right? But my nephew, yesterday, in my parents' driveway, I was afraid for his life in the car. Because if there's a target on my back, because he's with me, it's automatically on him. When I say that you all are tone deaf to what's happening in our community, it's because we're coming in here vocalizing it to you, and you're still telling us that it's not happening. Or telling us that we should just be okay with it or take it. You don't want to get rid of Pinion, or you all may not feel like that he should go anywhere, but he definitely should. If he is the top and he is the head, if you come into that whole system has to be uprooted. Everything in it needs to go. You told me, you said, well, we have a third party that's coming in, and this guy from, you may know him, he's from Butler Terrace. Do you realize how offensive that was? I do know what Butler Terrace is. You clearly know what it is, but you realize how offensive that is? You don't. Exactly, you do not. But you want us to move on. You want us to move on and things are the same. You want us to move on when all of us out here that look like me are still in fear of our lives. The same thing that happened to Steve, the same thing that happened to Jay could happen to my nephew, it could happen to me, it could happen to one of their children. But you want us to move on, and you're not trying to change anything that allows us to be able to move on. Don't do it. That allows us to be able to move on. We're always patient with you all. Have been for very long. And when you say, well, we're trying to conduct a meeting, we're holding you to 3 minutes.
I'm trying to be patient.
No. But see, even that right there allows, you're further telling the people, I don't hear you, don't care what you have to say. There's a man sitting next to you. You all make facial expressions like he's not, like that's not a man. It's because you don't respect him as a whole man. That's right. But in the grand scheme of things, when I look up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know any of y'all. But for me and my community, when I look up there, I see one man. That's right. One man. Why? Because he's accountable. He's told y'all to hold that man accountable. And you guys, as men, don't feel like that you need to hold another man accountable? Come on. Like, man, it's you guys really just don't care. So when someone brings up the word racism, oh no, it's not, well, I've heard race. It is. It's just that. Because sitting in your privilege, you can have the voice that you have. But we have to sit here and beg you to not be killed or gunned down in the streets. We got to sit here and beg for it. We got to beg for that? Come on. Talk to him. One bag, one side.
Y'all still agree with Chief Pinion?
I don't have a prepared speech today. I had a couple of questions, but I wanted to go down the line and ask questions of council today, with including the mayor. Well, I guess starting off with the mayor, we'll start with you. What do you see as this community healing? What does healing look like to you in this community?
You know, Justin, that's probably a question that is going to come by a community advisory committee group, cross-section of the community. to get a feel for that other than just asking us what that is.
Right, but you're the head leader
But I don't
in
know
this
that.
entire city. That's
There's
why I want to know
nothing-
what you
here's
want.
What I know, there's nothing that I can say that is going to be right in this room.
You don't need to be in this city.
Okay? And so, but to bring healing, you know, I think it's gonna take our crew to do that.
And that's right.
So I answered your question.
Okay. Mr. McMaster?
I think it's gonna take, communication.
Even, well, before, sorry to cut you off, but not just the city, but even your district, too, more specifically.
It's gonna take communication, it's gonna take time, it's going to take input from, city leadership, residents. I think the biggest thing is time. There's gonna be a part of this city that never heals in this. But what does it look like going forward? How do we try to do the best we can to bring everybody back together? And it's not gonna be easy. It's gonna take, Rodney and I talked about it earlier, it's gonna take coming to the table and talking. And no two sides may not completely agree, but if they don't agree, it's how can you disagree and figure out a workaround around it to come together and move forward. And I think that's what it's gonna take.
Mr. Pepper?
You know, I to be honest with you, so you said per district, right? So in my district, I believe that I'm actually going to echo the majority of what he said. I think communication is a big thing. So there is over the past 4 months, I've had many individuals from my district reach out to me that I've met before, talked to, and they've asked me for my opinion on the situation. And I said, well, I'm holding my opinion until the investigation is complete. But with that being said, they've asked me, well, what do you expect us to do? That we're hurting, we're upset. We don't know how to respond to this because we have.
I appreciate you saying that. By the way.
They're looking at us and telling me, you know, you're our city leader, you're our district leader. We want you to speak up and say something. But in my personal opinion, communication is the number one thing of how we're going to start the process of healing.
I'll save you for last.
I'll echo that. Whoever said that, positive communication.
They've said a lot of good things, and I don't necessarily disagree with any of them, but you know, my personal opinion, I think step one is taking ownership, and I think that's got to happen at multiple levels, right? I don't mind telling you, I've told a lot of y'all in this room, there's probably things I should have done faster or I could have done better, and I have no problem saying that. And if there may be others that agree, y'all may agree with that, and that's fine. But I do think communication is a big piece of that. And that's got to be positive, respectful conversations. We're not always going to agree on everything, right? That's the beauty in this, is that we can have conversations. We got to have people to the table that can understand they may not agree, but you're not going to figure out how to move forward as a city without having that push and pull relationship. And we're going to have that. So I think you got to start with ownership. I think you got to lay out a clear and concise plan as to what you're going to do. And I think that starts with RPD. I do. Because those guys are charged with serving and protecting us every day. And I think they do that. I think we have a lot of really good officers that was talked about tonight. But it's got to start in there. We've got to gain trust from those whose trust has been broken. And that's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be fast either. Right? We all need to understand that. There's no quick response to this, to gain and trust. I've lost people's trust before. I'm sure many of you have. It's not an easy road to get that back. So, but did someone just say you can't do that until you start?
Accountability.
Right. But yeah. So at some point, you do have to start that. So for me, those are some of the things that we've got to do to start the healing. But I can say this. I've told a lot of people. I do believe in the end of this that we will see a stronger community and more loving across all different lines. So that's my answer.
Mr. Jackson.
I've already been very clear about where I think healing starts. I tell my wife all the time, and if she's watching this, I'll get it when I get home, but I tell my wife all the time, well, I won't say all the time, but lots of times, she's got 2 mouths and 1 ear. And I think that it's important that not only do we hear, but we listen. I think there's a difference between hearing and listening. And I think that the healing process with this city, it has started with the removal of the police officers, and I said that earlier in our meetings. I think it continues with the removal of Chief Pinion, because I think our community is divided completely over that. And I do think that we need to do a better job of listening versus just hearing what you're saying. And I think that we need to be fast about making changes in our police department through new leadership. And that's my personal opinion.
Same question, just last? Okay. I think.
Since you're the president of the city council,
Sure. I think it's a lot of what everybody said, but,
yeah, but deep down though.
yeah, I
where
think,
do you-
and it goes back to Rodney's question, there's, the plan of action, I think, practically has to be community involvement in our police department, right? You know, I think policing, community policing, but there's gotta be, the board that is set up now, I don't know who's on that, it's set up by our police department. So looking at that, getting the appropriate people that are in this room to help us with that, so that we do get a good group that can help us know what's going on. And then from there, it's making sure our culture and
Say that
leadership,
again.
culture and leadership is right in the department, and you do that through third-party review. So those are the practical things I would say to move forward.
Do you guys feel that communications are effective here, or?
What do you mean?
Like, do you think this forum, you guys are receiving the information everybody's putting out effectively, or do you think there's?
I think there's, you and I, maybe you're getting to, we had a conversation about this last time.
I don't remember.
Okay. I think in some ways it's good, and there are definitely things I've learned and take. I think we all would say that, and then there are other times I would say, no, it's not a good forum for that.
Okay.
It has not been effective in some ways.
Well, I hope you guys see the long game and, you know, want to actually see healing and communication. And I know stuff's going to be hard to hear, and, you know, you guys may not do things you want to do, or some of your constituents might not, you know, be favorable of, but I think it's up to you guys to sell it as healing to your constituents, because.
Let me say this, Justin. You asked if what we're hearing is productive. What I'm hearing is pain. And I mean, I do, and I think some of my counterparts hear it as well. What I'm hearing is pain, and I hear frustration, and I think that that's where the 2 ears and 1 mouth come in. We have to hear what you're saying, and I'm hoping that it's not just falling on deaf ears, but I do hear pain. No matter how many times people say the same things over and over and over again, it's because they're hurting. And I think that we have to start that healing process. Again, we've spoken about that, but I think the healing process has to start. And once that starts, then we will hopefully we'll hear less and less painful conversation. But I think that we've got to start that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Good question,
Justice for
Justin.
Steve.
Thank you.
All right, we are adjourned, folks. We're adjourned. You can come up and discuss with us.
Are you here for a second?